Good morning, everybody. It is Tuesday, June 11th, 8:46 a.m. Of course, we're 1 minute late because it couldn't be a market open if we're not 1 minute late. Welcome back to another market open. It's been a while. We got back yesterday. We did the market open, but it's been a week. So now we are back in our official routine. And today, after the market open, we will have the market close at 3:45. Yesterday, the reason I didn't do the market close is because I fell asleep after the Apple event. We got a lot to talk about with the Apple event. We have a lot to talk about Bitcoin as well. This damn thing can't stay above 70,000. So we'll have a lot to talk about today. But after the Apple event, I watched it for a little bit. I did something before the Apple event that I'm going to talk about in a second as well. That some of you guys might enjoy. I definitely enjoyed it. And then I fell asleep. I fell asleep for like 8 hours and I woke up. And actually in the middle of my sleep, I fell asleep for 1 hour. I wake up at 4:30. I see Elon tweets, "No one's allowed to use an iPhone if ChatGPT's integrated it on any of my company's campuses." And I'm like, well, that's crazy. And I go back to bed. And then I wake up and I'm like, did Elon really say that? And I go back to his Twitter. I'm like, damn, Elon really hates Sam Altman. So we're going to talk about that entire Elon saga as well and get through that. But we're back with the market close today because yesterday I fell asleep since I didn't sleep for 18 hours. But we're back today for the market open, market close. Now, one other thing I did right before the Apple event happened, which was right after the market open. We had like 2 hours until the Apple event after, or like 1 hour. And I don't know how you guys are going to feel about this, but I tweeted about it last night. I did it. You guys might already be seeing it in my hands, more particularly my fingernails. I got a manicure and pedicure for the first time. Okay, I'm just going to say it. I got a manicure and pedicure for the first time. I heard all the jokes. Oh, it's Pride Month. That's why he got a manicure. Whatever. I heard the jokes. Everyone made their jokes. But I'm not going to lie, dude. This was the coolest experience of my life. This was one of the most amazing things ever. I mean, I don't know what to expect. Now, you might be saying, Amit, how did you wake up randomly on Tuesday, June 10th, 2024, after living 26 years on this planet and decide to get a manicure, pedicure? Honestly, I went to California and everyone's so stylish. So I realized I needed, no, I'm just kidding. I looked at my feet and I was like, these kind of look disgusting, dude. Like we need to like switch things up. Like this is getting stupid. And so I don't know what prompted me, but I was like, I'm going to get a manicure and a pedicure. And you know, the other thing that really prompted me, my nails started hurting because my nails, like, I don't know, like my toenails just started like, they were like in pain for some reason. And I was just like, maybe it's because I'm like not treating them right. I'm not keeping the health of them correct. And so I got a manicure and pedicure and it felt great. It felt phenomenal. Lord Garbon says, would get manicure, pedicure with my ex-wife before every vacation. It felt good and my toenails needed it. Yeah. And so I think this is going to be like a once every couple of months routine. It cost me $60, which I don't know if that's expensive or not expensive. But I did the manicure, pedicure. It felt great. My fingernails look phenomenal. There's no gunk in them. It looks like, I think we need to destigmatize men getting a manicure and pedicure because it felt great. Now, I didn't do nail polish. I know I heard all the jokes yesterday about that as well. I just don't need to do nail. I wouldn't be against nail polish. I just don't care about my nails like having nail polish on them. It's like I don't need to do that. But I got the manicure pedicure. So the feet needed an investment. That's correct. Now some people have been saying they want to see what the feet look like. To be honest, that's going to cost money. It's going to cost some money. So if you guys really want to see what the feet look like, I'm not trying to solicit anything for the pictures of the feet. But let's just say they're worth more than just, posting it on Twitter. I mean, these feet, they're worth some money. Let's just say that. The ROI on them, I think, will be exceptional for those that want to pay for them. So in any case, we got the manicure, pedicure done, and now we're back in action. Now, having said that, the other thing that happened yesterday was Apple's AI event. And I think that's the first thing we're going to start off talking about that. So what are we talking about today? We got Apple's AI event. We got to go deep into that, the implications of a variety of companies and the Elon Musk approach or angle to this. Bitcoin, I kind of am confused why Bitcoin is struggling so much. I think it's because the FOMC meeting is tomorrow and Bitcoin's struggling a little bit because they don't think the FOMC meeting is going to go that well. 67,000 right now. We hit 66.7 from 72 last week. It's really annoying. I mean, even yesterday we were at 71,969. So not cool to see Bitcoin getting to back down to these levels, and that's affecting a bunch of different stocks. I think FOMC will do the preview tomorrow. Tomorrow, if I'm not wrong, we get CPI and the FOMC meeting, which is kind of crazy. I don't think we've had in the past couple months both of those happening on the same day. So that's going to have a big implication on the market. I actually think the TLDR is that the FOMC meeting is going to go well. They're going to say, hey, we're not cutting rates yet, but we're likely going to keep cutting rates this year. And then CPI is going to come in cold, which is going to be good for the broader market. So I think that's what's going to happen. We'll talk more about that. We got to talk about the Apple stuff. Bernstein has Barclays downgraded Apple, and a couple other firms upgraded Apple. So you have various different opinions on the street in terms of how they conceptualize what happened with Apple yesterday. I have my own thoughts on that. I'm curious to see what other people have to say. And then outside of just Apple, Nvidia got a ton of upgrades yesterday to $150, I think, from Bank of America. So we got to talk a little bit more about why Nvidia continues to get upgraded as well. And then we'll keep going from there. Oh, and the Tesla vote. That's correct. And the Tesla vote is on the 13th, if I'm not wrong. I think it's on the 13th. So we'll be live streaming that if there is a live shareholder vote for that. And we'll discuss that. It seems more likely now, based on what I've been reading, and I could be wrong, I could be looking at sources that aren't necessarily correct, that Elon's losing this vote. I mean, that's what Bernstein put out a report yesterday. They said, we don't see how Elon has the votes, and maybe they're right, maybe they're wrong. If he does get the votes, it's going to be a very slim margin, but we're going to have to see how that plays out over the next coming days. All right. Thank you all for being here, everybody. Let's get started. Oh, one thing about Eli Lilly, I'll talk more about them later, but apparently they came out with a drug yesterday that is for Alzheimer's, and it works in the initial tests. Eli Lilly's was up 1.7% yesterday. Now it's up another 2%. This thing is up, I think, 50% for the year, if I'm not wrong. I mean, dude, forget the stock. Having a drug that can potentially solve Alzheimer's, year to date, it's up 46%. I mean, that's just like, for humanity, that's where you're reminded why capitalism is good. That's where you're reminded why innovation, research and development, all of this stuff actually matters. And the only way you get to a cure for Alzheimer's, which we've never cured, is through the monetary incentives for people to buy Eli Lilly's stock so that the company has the financial frameworks to be able to invest to potentially come up with a cure to Alzheimer's, which is, for those that don't know what Alzheimer's is, it's basically a disease that essentially degenerates your mind, and it leads you to forget everything. And it's really tough when you're living with someone who's old. My grandpa had dementia, not necessarily Alzheimer's, but I mean, he basically, I don't know exactly what was the bright line between them when he passed away a couple years ago, because he was forgetting everything. And so it's tough, right, when someone has that. So that's a really big news for Eli Lilly. And if that can extend further, that's going to be important as well for the broader sake of humanity, as John says here in the chat. Okay, before we get started, I think let's listen to Tom Lee. I think before we get started on the Apple event, let's listen to Tom Lee. He was on CNBC this morning. He had some interesting thoughts on what Apple said, and he also had some thoughts about what's going on with small caps and the macro. So I think before we get into the entire Apple discussion, which is going to take us a little bit of time, let's get away. Let's see what he has to say, and then we will keep going from there. While he's talking, you guys can let me know in the chat if you thought the Apple event was good. I have some thoughts and opinions on it. Not super bearish, not super bullish, but I have some nuanced thoughts, and we'll talk about that. Here's Tom Lee on the markets, small caps, and Apple as well.
The meeting kicks off today. Kind of a big week when we look at CPI and the Fed decision, but I want to focus on today first. What's your WEX word of the day? How do you see today shaping up?
Well, the WEX word of the day is visibility, because that's what's getting investors anxious about the next couple of days until we hear from the Fed and CPI. I think investors are anxious and they want visibility.
All right, so looking for some visibility. We got some visibility yesterday from Apple. We've been waiting for WWDC and their big artificial intelligence unveil. Stock closed down 2%. I want to get your take on what you heard and what you saw and what you think about the stock.
Well, Apple is one of our granny shots. It's a stock that we think investors need to really hold for the long term. The company has always been at the center of everything that's happening around a consumer and new technologies. So to me, there might have been some head scratching because these features may not be part of someone's life just yet. But as you know, Apple gets a lot of these things right.
All right. So by the way, for the audience, your granny shot, it's kind of like almost a very easy shot. You think it's almost a no-brainer when it comes to that stock, right?
That's right. I think investors should look at it as a core portfolio holding. The granny shots is basically a thematic portfolio that buys the strongest stocks in a specific theme. So when you think of AI and millennials, Apple and Nvidia and Tesla, I mean, they're really at the center of that.
All right. But you're
Okay, so actually let's use that and go straight into Apple, and then we'll go back to Tom Lee when we talk more about the macro after Apple, because he has a good conversation on small caps that I want to spend some time on as well. Okay, so the Apple event. Tom Lee right there says, look, it was a good event. They said what they had to do. They did what they needed to do. We'll hear from Dan Ives in a second as well. Ultimately, my opinion on what I got from this Apple event is that Apple did what they had to do when it came to explaining their use of AI. Now, they don't call it artificial intelligence. They call it Apple intelligence, which I got to give them credit for. Apple intelligence is actually pretty cool. And I mean, it's a nice play on words, and Apple just wants to be different. So they're constantly trying to be different, but they call it Apple intelligence. What I got before we get into the OpenAI partnership, which caused all the controversy yesterday, is Apple has built their own proprietary AI. I don't know if you even want to call it LLMs, because they haven't really built foundation models, but if they're using a form of proprietary LLMs to be able to do the computational infrastructure that is reading your emails and changing the way your emails operate. Some people were saying rest in peace to Grammarly, which is one of the companies or one of the apps that does that. Or being able to transcribe your audio and then summarize what you just heard in a voice memo. Or being able to automatically record your phone calls and then give you a transcript of those phone calls and then give you a summary. Or being able to search within your photos and be able to create slideshows of your photos from summer 2024 by taking out all the screenshots in the slideshows and just giving you the depth of like your vacation that you had in the Bahamas or something. There's a variety of different features they rolled out for iOS 18, Mac OS, and the iPad OS that leads me to believe that Apple has been thinking about AI for a while. I mean, I think it's unequivocal. Apple has been thinking about how they can interject artificial intelligence and machine learning into their products. Now, they've always used machine learning, and that's what Tim Cook was talking about today in an interview, that they've consistently used machine learning. And I can say as an Apple user, there's always been some level of reinforcement learning in the product that I've experienced, which has been phenomenal. It's why I've had the iPhone since 2010. The question was, and it's so interesting because stocks trade on sentiment, right? What is the sentiment of the market in relationship to Apple's ability to convince the world, hey, we are an AI play? And it's so wild because it's like, I think Apple has always had AI, ML in their products, but now the market needs an explicit explanation, presentation, reminder. You can even say Palantir's AIP was a way for them to prove to the world that they are an AI platform, even though they've been doing AI for the past decade. And that's what the market needs. So that's what Apple delivered. That was the first half of the presentation. It was relatively boring, not that exciting, some good features, but it was whatever. And most people were complaining, I think, an hour into the presentation, where's the actual AI announcement? Then you get into the presentation and then they do the actual AI. And the AI announcement, the gist of what I got was three things. Number one, generative AI emojis, which is using the power of something like Adobe's Firefly or Sora or Canva. Remember on the stream, I typed in girl on a horse and a girl on a horse popped up. Emojis, I mean, people probably send billions of emojis every single day through iMessage. Now they will support Gen AI emojis where you can type in something and an emoji pops up. You might be thinking, oh, this is such a stupid little feature. Why are you even talking about it? To me, I mean, we're talking about consumer use cases of AI. I think this is going to be the biggest consumer AI products over the next couple of years. Like generative AI emojis, people actually being able to type up and have an experience of finding something that pops up automatically on their screen. A lot of us in the chat have used AI before. Most of my friends probably have never used Stable Diffusion or things of that nature to be able to come up with Gen AI images. So I think that's going to be a big thing. The second thing is the integration with Siri. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And the third thing is the broader ecosystem of using personalized LLMs to be able to create contextual relationships between your schedules, your meetings, your phone calls, your day-to-day tasks, the things you want to buy, sell, etc. So what Rabbit and Humane, those two products that essentially we're trying to create a wearable AI wearable, I guess that's what they're calling the category, AI wearables. Humane's now trying to sell for $1 billion. I don't know if that's going to happen. A Rabbit seems to be like a disaster. No one's using it. And the thesis of those products were, hey, what if we can create an interface that doesn't require you to touch a screen, but just talk and get answers? It seems like that's what Apple has created. They've created an interface where you can touch the screen, but you don't need to touch the screen, and you can interact with the day-to-day lives of things that you have. We'll talk about calculator on the iPad as well, because that was important, to be able to get things done. So personalized LLMs was the big thing I got from it. Having said all of that, and we'll talk about Siri in a second, I don't know if that's enough to create the massive upgrade cycle. Remember, if you are an Apple bull, at least in the short term, forget the next 5 years, because 5 years from now, Apple probably is going to be much higher than 193. But in the next 12 months, the opportunity cost of your capital being stuck in Apple, I don't know. Now, historically, after WWDC, Apple tends to sell off. And then I think it's like 6 months later, it tends to be up 12%. So if you're looking at, that would be putting Apple at closer to 240-ish, 235-ish if we're up 12% in the next 6 months, which is going to be good, right? I mean, like, I think everyone would be happy for that. If you're an Apple shareholder, Warren Buffett would definitely be happy about that. And the PE of 30 right now on Apple would maybe be justified given the growth would be closer to 10% versus 7% or versus 0%, which is what it's at right now. The problem is, do you think the upgrade cycle happens based on all the things I mentioned, these personalized LLMs, if you have an iPhone 15 or below? I have an iPhone 15 Pro Max, so I'm going to be able to get access to all the stuff that Apple was promising yesterday. But if you have an iPhone 15 or below, you're not going to be able to get access to that stuff. And so I just don't know, dude. Unfortunately, I did not feel that Apple announced something that blew me away. And it's been a while since Apple announced something that blew me away. I personally don't blame Apple. I know everyone's hating on Tim Cook that he's not innovative. I don't blame the guy. I think it's really hard to come up with brand new innovative features for a phone that is relatively perfect already and to try to push the envelope further. But they don't want to pay a dividend. They don't want to admit that, their run is over. So they're trying to keep pushing the envelope. And it's just hard for me to see how big of an upgrade cycle this creates. Now, let's talk about the Siri news, because I think that was the big thing that sparked a lot of controversy yesterday. Elon Musk is not a fan of Apple using OpenAI with Siri. Now, what is Apple using OpenAI for Siri for? Essentially, if you ask Siri, how long did it take to build the Empire State Building? Right now, if I ask it, it's going to pull up Safari and it's going to be a horrible experience, right? If I just want the answer immediately, I'm not going to be able to get the answer. On OpenAI's integration with Siri, which is essentially ChatGPT, Apple explicitly asks, hey, can we ask ChatGPT to give you the answer to this question? And if I say yes, then it automatically brings up the answer, and I get a really, I think, sophisticated user experience. You don't even have to pay for ChatGPT to be able to access that type of that type of experience. I think it's a pretty phenomenal partnership, and it makes a lot of sense to me. Apple has said, hey, OpenAI is the first foundation model we're going to be using. We're probably going to be integrating with Gemini. We're going to be integrating with Claude. We're going to be integrating with Llama. So all the different models, like different search engines, Yahoo, Bing, etc., that you could use through Safari, you're going to be able to use through Siri. And the best one is going to be the default one that you pick. So my default is Google on Safari because I like using it. But if people like Yahoo, then they can switch their default to Yahoo. So OpenAI simply is the best model. We know this, right? For all the shit OpenAI gets, they have the best model. They were the first mover. I think their model has the most parameters. And as a result of that, they're able to have better context windows and able to give better answers, which is why I think it makes sense that Apple chose Siri. Now, why is Elon upset about this? Elon's argument is that if ChatGPT is integrated at the OS level for Apple, which I think is incorrect to an extent. He said yesterday, I mean, this tweet got 65 million views, dude. These two sentences really brought up a storm yesterday. Apple devices will be banned at my company. So if you work at Tesla or SpaceX and you show up with an Apple device that's updated to iOS 18, that has OpenAI integrated at the OS level, then Elon says that is an unacceptable security violation, and as a result, you will not be able to bring your iPhone into work. So here's my question to the chat. Let's start off with this. Here's my question into the chat. Does this make any sense? I really want to get a lot of perspectives here. Does this make any sense at all? Because I had all the Elon fanboys yesterday on Twitter saying no one understands what Elon's saying. He's like talking about the truth, yada, yada. And I'm like, okay, I get it. But I had some more objective standpoints saying, look, I'm a Tesla fan, but this is just ridiculous. Like we cannot ban iPhones on Tesla's campus, which I'm sure 95% of people that work at Tesla have an iPhone, right? Probably 5% have an Android, but it just doesn't make a lot of sense. So his argument is that ChatGPT is stealing your data. And look at this. He says visitors will have to check their Apple devices at the door, where they will be stored in a Faraday cage. Wait, what is a Faraday cage? I've never heard this before. Hold on. Let's Google this real quick. A Faraday. What is this, dude? A Faraday cage is an enclosure used to block electromagnetic fields. Okay, so Elon is very serious. This is what he's going to do with your iPhone if you visit his campus. He's going to put it in a cage. He's pretty upset about this. So he goes on further to say, and then he got community noted, which is wild. He said, it's patently absurd that Apple isn't smart enough to make their own AI, yet is somehow capable of ensuring that OpenAI will protect your security and privacy. Apple has no clue what's actually going on once they hand your data over to OpenAI. They're selling you down the river. So the community note is saying that Apple has developed their foundational models, which run on device locally and have approximately 3 billion parameters. That's how they do all the email, photo stuff that they're doing. For tasks that require more compute, Apple either uses private cloud compute open to verify for privacy, or OpenAI with additional confirmation. So one of the reasons I think Elon is kind of incorrect about this is because his argument is that ChatGPT is integrated throughout the entire OS, and that the LLMs that OpenAI have created are the foundation models that Apple is using to serve you AI-assisted tasks. That is incorrect, and that's not me saying it. That's Community Notes, which is Elon's big feature that he touts on Twitter, the community checking people that are wrong so that you don't have to censor people. You can check back against them with further speech, right? They're saying, hey, look, that's not true. The only time Apple uses OpenAI is when you ask Siri a question. Now, Elon says, look, that's still really bad because they're stealing your data. I don't know if that's necessarily the biggest argument that I don't know if that's a hill you want to die on. So then look, he posted this meme. He's trying to make fun of OpenAI and your data. And the reason I don't think you want to die on this hill is because isn't Twitter doing the same thing? I mean, Twitter is stealing all of our data. If you use Twitter, like Grok, this thing right here, all of this is trained on tweets. Like if I ask a question, it's going to show me tweets. So like the idea that it's not quote unquote stealing your data, by the way, it's not really stealing because as soon as you sign up to the terms of service, you explicitly give up your data. I don't think that's correct, right? I think Elon has a personal vendetta against OpenAI, which I understand, by the way. I totally understand why he has this personal vendetta. And that's why he's making this argument. So here's someone asking ChatGPT, if one could save the world from nuclear apocalypse by saying the N-word or by misgendering Caitlyn Jenner, would it be okay to say something bad in this scenario? ChatGPT says no. So basically he's saying, look, this is such a woke AI. Imagine if this AI is trained on billions of devices and that's bad. Now, someone actually tweeted back at Elon that, hey, I asked Grok the same question and Grok gave the same answer, which is no. So it's not like his, Grok model, which probably is going to get better given they raised $6 billion, is that much better. But his point is well taken that OpenAI has particular biases injected into their models. Those biases, if they get access to 2 billion iOS devices, potentially 2.5 billion over the next year, that's going to be something very bad for OpenAI. It's going to make OpenAI too powerful, and Apple doesn't understand the implications of this. Now, he says it's absurd that Apple it doesn't have the capacity or isn't smart enough to make their own AI, basically saying they don't have the ability to use their own AI models. They have to use third parties. I think it's not that Apple isn't smart enough to make their own AI. And this is the reason the stock is only up 5% year to date. And for the majority of the year, is down 10% year to date. I think it's because Apple just didn't get to the party fast enough. I think they missed the sort of GPU-based era of training. By the way, Meta bought over 100,000 GPUs, H100s, back in 2021 from NVIDIA, but they bought it for the metaverse. And eventually the metaverse, they haven't admitted it, but the metaverse died out and AI became more important for advertising, which is the core of their business. And they used those H100s to simply train their advertising to get more competitive with TikTok. And that's how they ended up winning in regards to having one of the best, advertising products on the planet, which we've seen through their earnings has reflected in the numbers. Apple wasn't doing that. And so unfortunately, Meta and OpenAI were actually at the forefront of this. Apple and Google were not. Google's now playing catch up. And that's why Apple has to use third parties, which is the biggest bear case from WWDC. If there is any bear case to what I saw yesterday, outside of Elon wanting to ban iPhones on Tesla's campus, it's that they're using a third party. And it's not very Apple-like to use any third party. It's all the reason Apple is slow to everything is because they take their time and they build their own stuff. I mean, they could have created an OS and integrated into Meta's Quest, right? They could have done so many different things, but they wanted to build their own hardware. They wanted to build their own software. They wanted to build what took 12 years to build a calculator app for the iPad that we haven't had, which is actually really cool. But they wanted to take their time to build it, even if it took 12 years. The fact that they didn't want to build their own model, I don't know, dude. It's pretty tough. It's pretty tough to justify them not building their own model. So what are you guys thinking? What are you guys thinking about this Apple event? Are you bullish on it? Are you bearish on it? I mean, I don't think I'm bullish or bearish. I said I said on the market open yesterday that I was skeptical that Apple's going to introduce something super amazing. And at least from what I saw, I didn't see something super amazing. I did see some pretty cool use cases. Again, I ask myself, am I going to be using those every single day? And I just don't. I think the answer to that is no, dude. I don't think I'm going to be talking to Siri every single day. Like, I'm going to use it more. I just don't think I'm going to use, and so this is what I mean by I'm not going to use it every day. If I'm not using it an absurd amount, then where's the monetization from a services perspective? Because the monetization comes from two aspects on Apple's AI enabled products. Either I buy a new piece of hardware, which Apple, I think, has like 65% margins on their phones, right? So they make 65 cents off every dollar that I spend with them on the hardware front, or I pay for some type of services in a subscription revenue that increases their services revenue as well. Unfortunately, I'm not going to upgrade. That's just not happening. None of these devices are exciting enough to upgrade, or none of these features are exciting enough to upgrade. And I want to know what you guys think in the chat, especially if you have an iPhone 15 or above. And then B, like, am I really going to pay $20, $30 a month to Apple for like integrated health resources that are powered by AI? Maybe in the future, but as of now, no. And that's why it's hard for me to be super, super excited about this as well. Mark says, could they be circumventing lawsuits with antitrust in the US and the EU? Well, that's a good point. Maybe they're using ChatGPT to circumvent the potential. I mean, because they are getting sued right now by the US government and the EU government. I didn't even think of that angle. That's actually very interesting. But regardless, the fact that they're using a third-party piece of software, I don't think I think it's less about the legality of this and them trying to circumvent. I think it's more about they don't have their own models that are sophisticated enough to compete. And look, even if they did, they have their own models, like real foundation models to compete with Gemini, et cetera, they wouldn't be as good as OpenAI. Like OpenAI is one, which is why I've said publicly, I think OpenAI is going to be $1 trillion company. I think with all the bullshit happening with OpenAI, I think they're going to $1 trillion because they win. And GPT-5 is not even out yet. When GPT-5, like, they won, which is why I'm so, and we have a lot to talk about at Snowflake today. There's a lot of stuff going on, but that's why I'm so confused why Snowflake's building their own LLM, because I'm like, we know GPT is going to win at the end of the day. So it's very weird to see kind of how this is playing out, but it does seem like Apple is giving Sam Altman the keys to the kingdom. And somehow I think the big takeaway from all this, guys, is Sam Altman has figured out how to convince Satya Nadella and Tim Cook to basically should be called Tim Altman at this point. Sam Altman has made both of these guys his sons. Okay. That's what he's done. I mean, he has sunned the crap out of Tim Cook and Satya Nadella because this scrawny little dude from Silicon Valley convinced $2-3 trillion companies to give him access to as much compute as he wants. I know Microsoft owns 50% of OpenAI, but the point is they have unlimited resources and then billions of iOS devices. I mean, I think Sam Altman's the winner. I think OpenAI is the winner. And here's the thing. Apple publicly embracing and acknowledging OpenAI yesterday on the stream and basically saying, yeah, we love these guys. We're partners with these guys. We're going to work with these guys. Apple up just a little bit right now in the pre-markets. I think that's them telling the market, we don't have any other alternatives that we could have realistically went with to start off our models. Now, Apple is basically using KLLMs. We are all familiar with this as Palantir investors to be the basis and the foundational framework of Siri, because I can pick Gemini, ChatGPT, whatever. Over time, they're going to introduce more models. But the fact that they're starting with GPT means that they've acknowledged GPT is the winner here. And I'm sure they had meetings with Sundar, and they probably, like the Apple engineers, looked at Gemini versus GPT. They probably ruthlessly tested them over the past couple months. That's when those Bloomberg rumors broke out that Apple's working with Gemini. And they probably concluded, yeah, Gemini is just not as good. And although Gemini might be safer for your data, because Google, maybe you could trust more than OpenAI, it's not better. And Apple wants to have a better experience. And if a better experience requires stealing more of your data, I mean, I don't, and it's kind of ironic, right? Apple's the one that, your privacy matters to us. We're going to ban Meta, we're going to ask them to do your ad tracking, all this stuff. When it comes, and this is where Elon has a point, when it comes to not trusting a bad actor, I'm not saying Sam Altman's a bad actor, but I'm saying, goodness gracious, the dude got fired from his board of directors. I mean, that, like, I don't think Tim Cook looks at that and is like, oh, Sam Altman was just moving fast and breaking things and we should trust the innovator. No, dude. Like, if you guys remember what happened with Uber, Travis Kalanick, the founder of Uber, found a way to geofence his product from Apple's 30% commission back in 2015. And he did this successfully for a couple months, avoiding the commission fees from Apple because he did some fancy geofencing. He was kind of genius what he figured out. And then Apple, they figured out what the hell he was doing. And then and Tim Cook has a meeting with Travis. He calls him into his office and he looks him dead in the face. And he's like, if you don't stop doing this, we will ban Uber from the App Store. And then Uber would have died. And so Travis reluctantly, gave up his secret there and they had to start playing equally. I don't think Tim Cook is a fan of Sam Altman being fired by his board of directors and like doing and moving as quick as he is, based on his previous experiences with other founders that are moving fast and breaking things, to say, oh, that's the guy we want to partner with. I think he was forced into a corner where he had to partner with them because that would create the best user experience, which begs the question that Elon's asking. Well, wait a second. You guys have critiqued Zucks for so long about user privacy. Now you have a guy that literally does not care about user privacy. I mean, stealing Scarlett Johansson's voice, it's just like, he's not technically stealing, but it's still a shady thing to do. To partner with that guy means you don't really give a fuck. And if you don't care, I guess it is what it is, but don't be a hypocrite and say that Zuck's, hates people's personal data, because it seems like Apple is diminishing their brand by doing this as well. And so I just think there's so many moving parts to this picture. Yes, the AI features are good. Yes, maybe an upgrade cycle will happen. Elon is upset that OpenAI has all this power, and I think for good reason Elon should be upset. But at the end of the day, Elon can't stop OpenAI from utilizing their ecosystem with Apple. Elon can ban iPhones on his campuses, but I don't think that's going to make a dent in Apple's progress. I think this comes down to Tim Cook not having the AI features the market wants, and realizing the stock needs to go up, and he's saying, "All right, Sam, it's your kingdom, and I'll give you access to everything we built." And he's hoping to God nothing bad happens. And we will see over the next coming months when this rolls out if anything bad actually happens. Amit, what do you think about the fact that Apple literally banned ChatGPT from employee phones? Yeah, I think I saw that. That was a while ago, right? Apple said that ChatGPT is not allowed to be on employee phones. It just shows the hypocrisy of this. And I don't blame Apple for being hypocritical here, because at the end of the day, they have to do what they need to do, right? They're a business and they need to grow, and they need to prove to shareholders that they have an AI moat. But I guess that's what I walked away from the conference. Let me know if you guys think about that in the chat as well. We've got the market open in 13 minutes. I felt Apple was playing defense yesterday versus offense. And that's why I think the stock reacted the way it did. Stock's probably going to bounce higher to 200 over the coming months as things get more exciting and better. It did not feel like Apple's at the forefront of AI. It feels like Nvidia's at the forefront, Microsoft's at the forefront, OpenAI's at the forefront, and Apple just has all the consumers. Therefore, those guys have to work with Apple, but it's not like they really care about working with Apple. It's just let's say Sam Altman doesn't get access to those 2 billion devices. It would hurt OpenAI. If everyone was using Gemini with Siri, I don't think it would kill OpenAI. Whereas for some of these other companies, I mean, if you're not on the App Store, you're not working with Apple, you're not integrated into their OS, their features, you're dead, right? I think OpenAI's models are just better, and so it's going to be really, really interesting to see how this plays out over the next couple of days or the next couple of months, and see where this goes from there. Here's Here's Dan Ives, and here's what he had to say about the Apple event as well.
That little bit, Dan. If we don't see a material uptick in sales, say in September, November, December, and October, are you going to basically retrench some of your bullishness, or do you think it could come as late as next year and it still would be valid?
Yeah, if that doesn't happen, I'll come into the studio wearing a black sports jacket because I believe.
Wow, Dan's really going hard for Apple here.
This is the start of a renaissance of growth. And I think what's important now is that Apple, really unveiling their AI strategy. Of course, Altman there, the OpenAI being significant. I mean, this is ultimately most consumers, 25% in the world, they will access AI through an Apple device.
Well, if we end up with sales as soon as next week, you'll be wearing the drapes. Dan, I am curious about the idea of a subscription service. What are people going to be subscribing to, given the fact that right now you've got Apple Music, you have a number of other services? Are they going to subscribe to Apple Intelligence?
I think at first it's free, and that's the key for any Apple user. But this is essentially an AI brain in the iPhone. And where eventually this is going to go, developers that were all there yesterday that I saw, they're going to be building hundreds of apps based on this technology stack within the Apple ecosystem. And that's where more and more consumers are going to interact with it. This is just the start of now this AI party coming to Cupertino. But as much as it's late to the party, it's still 9 p.m. in this party that I believe goes to 4 or 5 a.m.
So Dan's bullish. I mean, look, Dan's been bullish for a while. What he saw from the presentation was what he wanted to see. I'm not going to say the presentation wasn't good. I just didn't walk away thinking, oh my God, Apple's going to dominate. And maybe I don't need to. Maybe the stock can pump to 220 without needing to. That probably can. It's already up 5% year to date after being down 10% year to date. The buybacks helped, right? They still have 100. If the stock falls back to 160, 100 billion bucks, boom, you're ready to go. So, and we'll read Barclays' note right now because they were a bit bearish on it. But at the end of the day, it seems like the majority of the street got what they wanted. At least Dan and the Bulls got what they wanted. But the bears are still saying that this partnership was not as strong as it needed to be to convince people that Apple's going to keep going further. Okay, apparently Schwab is down. For anyone who uses Schwab, is it actually down? SoFi is up. I just logged into SoFi. SoFi is working. Robinhood's working. Schwab seems to be having some technical issues today. So if Schwab is down, that is weird. It's good that other brokerages aren't down because maybe that would have been like an industry-wide thing happening with brokerages, but it seems like Schwab is having some issues. So very weird. Yeah, I made a Schwab account a while ago, but I don't really use it. Yeah, let me know once it's back up and running, because we got 9 minutes until the market opens. Schwab can't be down. That's not a good thing. That's not a good thing going into the 9 minutes. Someone says nice blouse. Thank you. I appreciate that. For those that are just joining, I got a manicure and pedicure yesterday, and I feel fabulous, quite frankly. So yeah. Okay, let's go back to Tom Lee. Let's talk some macro. Here's his thesis on small caps reiterated again, and let's listen a little bit to this, and then we'll keep going from there.
Sector picks when it comes to the AI trader: NVIDIA, Cadence, ARM, AMD. Why isn't Apple in there if you believe that it's a core holding and obviously they're pushing into the AI space?
Well, mainly because Apple is much more than just an AI company. So I don't think it's intentional that we left out Apple when we talk about AI trades, but when our clients are looking for direct beta exposure, to them, the complex is NVIDIA, and then stocks with high correlations to NVIDIA, which are the ones that we actually listed.
All right. So, Tom, know what you're intentional about? Small caps. You've been one of the biggest bulls when it comes to small caps, specifically the IWM ETF. I'm just looking at the small caps since the last Fed decision. They're up 3%. The rest of the market's up about 6.5%. They've been lagging all year long. Is there still a case for small caps to rally as much as 50% this year in your mind?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, one thing investors have to keep in mind is small caps get hampered when investors worry about lack of visibility. When the Fed begins to cut, and we actually have shown this to our clients, and the number of expected cuts begins to creep up, that has been correlated with the IWM outperforming the broader market. So the reality is the stock market is saying, look, I don't want to touch small caps until the Fed starts cutting. But in the meantime, small caps have better earnings growth, close to 19% in the Russell 2000 versus around 9% for the S&P. And the median PE multiple is actually around 10 times in the Russell 2000 compared to 16 times for the S&P. So better growth, lower multiples. I think it's a great risk reward for investors right now.
But aren't they also more rate sensitive and also more sensitive to the higher cost of capital and the higher for longer environment? I mean, you keep saying that investors don't want to touch them until the Fed starts cutting. We don't have any clarity. We might get some answers tomorrow, but it's unlikely. The Fed's been very clear. They're data dependent.
Sure. But I think what you've just described, which is higher cost of money, or a high bar for borrowing money, that's the existing condition. So when the Fed starts cutting, that starts to ease. What would investors benefit from is having exposure to things that are levered to an easing of financial conditions. That would actually argue for small caps. So it's a bit of a waiting game, but boy, I don't know anyone who's made money trying to trade this week to week. Any great ideas, all the great ideas take time to work.
So Tom Lee is saying, look, we have to, the small caps are delivering 19% year-over-year growth, whereas S&P 500 companies are delivering 9% year-over-year growth, but small caps are trading at an obvious discount compared to S&P 500 companies. Well, the reason for that discount is because a lot of those are not really the best companies in the Russell, right? They're not the NVIDIAs and Apples of the world, but they're companies that are more rate sensitive. Tom's argument, and this is what we have as of yesterday, this is when the big banks expect the first rate cut. Tom's argument is that eventually this cut is going to happen. And if this cut does happen, the market is going to need to broaden out their exposure to equities. Like if the cut happens, is it bullish for NVIDIA? Sure. But NVIDIA just put up $26 billion of revenue. They don't need rates to come down for them to continue to have demand, because the people that are paying in NVIDIA are Meta, Google, Microsoft, Apple, like companies that really don't care about interest rates in regards to the ability to finance their operations. Whereas smaller companies really do care about interest rates. And so the thesis is as follows. If interest rates come down, most of these banks right here saying that it's going to happen around September or November, but none of them really saying July. Then the only one that's saying July is MUFG. Everyone else September or December. If interest rates do come down, small caps are going to be highly beneficial towards the low interest rate environment, or at least the lower interest rate environment. And their earnings growth that is already at 19% is going to likely go higher because of the cheaper cost of capital that they have access to. Now, the one thing here that I think is important to understand as well is Wall Street is making the same bet as Tom Lee. It's not just Tom touting the small caps. Stanley Druckenmiller has over $500 million, $664 million worth of calls on IWM, on the Russell. I really doubt he's closed out the position. That was disclosed about a month ago. The idea that he closed it out up like 1 or 2% is not really what Stan Druckenmiller does. He tends to hold for a couple years on a position like that. So I would imagine he's bought leaps on the small caps, and he thinks that the market is going to rotate to them, because the question is, how much juice do you have left to squeeze out of something like Nvidia? Now, speaking of Nvidia, we got the market open in 4 minutes. A large cap like Nvidia that's at 121.93 right now, slightly green in the pre-markets. They got upgraded today. So some parts of the market is a lot of juice left by Oppenheimer to $150. The argument is we see Nvidia as the best positioned in AI, benefiting from their full stack AI hardworking, networking, and software solutions. They raised their 2024-2025 earnings estimates to $262 and $332 per share. They said we also see several structural tailwinds driving sustained outsized top-line growth in high-performance gaming, data center AI, and autonomous driving vehicles. Another really important thing about what they did with Nvidia yesterday, Bank of America said, well, wait a second. The biggest AGI models, artificial general intelligence, are going to be 100 trillion parameters. Right now, the models that we have are close to about 1 trillion parameters. So if we need to go from 1 trillion to 100 trillion in terms of the, which is like the human mind essentially being created through this AGI via parameters, the amount of compute that's going to be needed over the next decade to get to that AGI vision, it's going to be trillions and trillions of dollars. And that's all going to come down to Nvidia if the competition isn't strong enough to be able to fight back against them, which means that's the argument for why Nvidia could still go up. So I think there is a world where we see small caps get the rally they need to get, which is what Tom Lee's talking about, but also the Nvidias of the world, and maybe just the Nvidias, maybe it's not the large caps, also benefit because AI is the tailwind that is not stopping for a lot of these companies. And so we'll see. We'll see how that plays out. Okay, so it seems like Schwab is still down for a bunch of people. I just asked on Twitter. Yeah, a bunch of people are saying Schwab is down. Some people are saying it's back. Some people are saying it's down. That's weird that it's back for some people, not back for other people. Schwab is not in an outage like this for a very long time. I mean, I can't remember when Schwab has had an outage like this. So that'll be interesting. We got 2 minutes into the market open. I don't think this is GameStop related, and we'll talk about GameStop. Roaring Kitty, I mean, GameStop right now in the pre-market's down another 2.5%. The dude bought his calls for $20 strike. The stock is $24. He's up on those calls barely. So yesterday he lost another $50 million. So he went from being up $600 million to basically being up $30 million. So he lost about $570 million over the past week. I don't know what the game plan is. I am very confused. The calls are going to expire in 11 days or 9 days. And he needs to get this thing to pump in order to make some money. I don't know what his plan is. I don't know if he knows that something's happening in the next couple of weeks, but I wouldn't doubt him. It's just really tough seeing all that money go to waste and him going down with the ship. Maybe his plan is to just lose a ton of money on this and prove how much he loves GameStop. I really have no clue. If anyone knows in the chat what you think he's up to, let me know. But we're going to see over the next couple weeks, basically over the next 9 days, what happens. He didn't sell. Yesterday, he disclosed on Reddit that he has not sold anything. They're the original contracts. In fact, the open interest on that strike went from 146,000 to 152,000. So there's 7,000 more contracts that were purchased over the past couple of days, people getting into the trade with him because they think that something's going to happen over the next week. S&P 500 down about 0.28%. We have CPI tomorrow, PPI the day after, and the FOMC meeting coming up as well tomorrow. So tomorrow's going to be a jam-packed day. We'll be early at 8:20 to look at CPI. If CPI comes in good, then as long as the Fed FOMC meeting signals that rate cuts are still happening, which I believe they will, we'll talk more about that after the bell. I think it's going to be an okay week and an okay June, but we're going to have to see how that ends up playing out. All right, got a lot of stuff to talk about after the bell. Still a bunch of different topics we'll get into, but let's see how the market opens. 9:30 a.m. Tuesday, June 11th. Thank you, everybody, for being here. The stock market, once again, is open. Wake your ass up. Oh, boy, it's been so long. Feels back to normal. Wake your ass up. We are here, ready to go. Let's get into the market. S&P 500, 533.92. So we're down 0.33% of the day. CrowdStrike down 0.94. Makes sense. I think this thing is up like 15% in the past week, so it's taking a little bit of a breather. Celsius getting a bit of a rebound. That makes sense. It was down 8% yesterday. Snowflake, I have a lot to talk about this one. A bunch of different stuff I uncovered over the past couple of days. We'll talk about that. That's up 2%. It makes sense. Again, let me say this one more time. I do think Snowflake pumps back to 170. I think over the next 6 months, Snowflake will pump back, even if it gets back to 200. I think this is a short-term oversold bearish sentiment going around on Snowflake that is not going to last forever. However, as a long-term investment, I'm not really sure Snowflake is the best bet here, but I do think it bounces over time. There was an insider that bought $10 million worth of Snowflake right before it tanked to 126. They bought it at $130. So we'll talk about that as well. But Snowflake seeing a little bit of a bounce up 2% because yesterday fell 6%. Apple 194, Nvidia 122. Apple getting some green today. So Apple seeing the benefit of the market, thinking that their AI features were good. Palantir 2314 on the day. So we are flat to green on Palantir. Not bad for Palantir. Tesla 174. We'll talk more about that shareholder vote that is coming up in a couple of days. Snowflake right here, 129.97. SoFi back above $7, 0.07% on SoFi, $7.04. So not bad that SoFi's getting up there. Uber at 68. Robinhood 22.82. Robinhood was about 23.40 for the majority of the day. Right now yesterday, right now 22.81. Oh, by the way, at 4 p.m., we get the Robinhood metrics. So I think at 4:05, we'll be live on the market close, and we'll see what their metrics were for the month of May. I think that's why it ran up yesterday, and we could probably see it run up closer into the end of the day if the market starts to feel they are bullish on those metrics. At 4:05. But if it stays flat throughout the rest of the day, then, and the metrics are good, we might see a little bit of momentum for Robinhood as well. So we'll see how that turns out later throughout the day. TSM is down 165. Alibaba 78.68. Alibaba was almost $90 a couple of weeks ago. So Alibaba is down now. And that's bad. Philip says he's going to exercise his call options and get a larger position. The problem with that thesis is that he needs $240 million to do that, right? 12 million shares at $20. I don't think he has $240 million liquid. So he only has 5 million shares of GameStop. So at most he could liquidate it at like $25, make 125 million, but that's not enough. So maybe he's going to exercise some of them and then buy the rest of the shares. But it is a bit confusing to see how he's going to pull this off if he wants to do it for all of them. Lululemon. I actually went to a Lululemon in California, and I got to actually go inside one of the stores. The prices were still kind of ridiculous in terms of how they were priced, but they bounced up over their earnings because their earnings were better than expected. I think this thing is still down like 25% year to date. They were at 500 at one point, now at 318, but I think they bottomed at like 270, and so that's why they got some momentum. First Solar, that's up 1.4%. Apple now 195, up 1% of the day. Nvidia's down. GameStop, wow, down 5% on the day. GameStop is getting absolutely hit. Bitcoin as well. We'll talk about Bitcoin. That's at 67,000. That's also down on the day. S&P 500 down about 0.4%. Rivian down 0.5%. Palantir 2311. Google 177. Google is green along with Apple. CrowdStrike now turns green. Celsius is green. CRM is down again, down 1%. And then Snowflake here at $130 on the day. Uber as well, slightly down. Dell is down 130. Dell had a nasty fall last week. We saw it go from 180 to 130. Again, the reason Dell is down, for those that are confused, their operating margins are like 0%, even though their backlog for server demand or AI-based server demand is gone up about 30% to $3 billion. So they have enough demand, but they're not making any money on the demand. Bank of America says they'll eventually make money, which is why you should be bullish on them. But that is the reason, why the market's probably skeptical on Dell right now. CleanSpark's tanking. Yeah, the miners, dude, we haven't talked about the miners in a bit, but man, the miners have been a horrible trade this year. The miners have just been bad. I mean, unless you've been able to time it correctly. Wow, CleanSpark's $14. Marathon's $18. I mean, so last week, CleanSpark, I think, got to like 18. Marathon got to 22. So if you've been trading in and out of them, it's not been too bad. But all of them are down year to date, except for CleanSpark, I think. And the reason for that is because they're so contingent upon Bitcoin. Now, Bitcoin is confusing me. Bitcoin had $2 billion of inflows last week from the ETFs, which is exceptional, right? I don't know how many. I think that's like, I don't know how many thousands of Bitcoin that means. But basically, if they only produce 450 a day, I think there was like a 28 supply to demand ratio in terms of how much the ETFs actually swallowed up from the miners that produce the Bitcoin. The problem is someone was selling. So as soon as the ETFs bought the Bitcoin at 70,000, 71,000, 72,000, someone, whether it's a different institution that has Bitcoin or whether it's retail, sold it to the ETFs. And that's why it's been unable to pump higher. Now, I think the reason Bitcoin's down is because the FOMC meeting is tomorrow. And historically, if you look at Bitcoin's chart for all the FOMC meetings, it tends to go down before the FOMC meeting, which is fair because they're afraid of the uncertainty of CPI and FOMC. If inflation's sticky, interest rates are not getting cut anytime soon, Bitcoin doesn't have liquidity. Bitcoin probably goes down. But if the opposite happens, I think Bitcoin goes higher tomorrow. It's just been really annoying, this $70,000 little battle Bitcoin's been doing over the past week. Where's Apple? Where's Apple? Where's Apple? Wow, Apple 196. All right, so there's your green candle. Market seems to be ignoring Elon Musk's comments around Apple not having the privacy focus that they tout so highly about because of their partnership with ChatGPT. And the market says, nope, Apple is a buy. Wow, Meta back at 500. Didn't even see that. Meta dropped to 400 at 1.398 after earnings. We all knew that was stupid. And the reason I didn't buy the Meta dip is because I really didn't have that much cash at the time, and I just bought more Palantir at like 21 bucks. But still, the Meta dip, I think all of us knew at 398. The only reason they fell is because they're paying more money to Nvidia. Like increasing your capex is not a reason for the stock to materially go down because we know the monetization of that will happen in the future. So that was a juicy dip in the low 400s if you got it. Now back at 500. And I think that's been the theme this entire year. Look at NVIDIA, 122. NVIDIA's green on the day. The theme this year has been AI is real. AI is not going anywhere. And any dip should be bought because monetization for AI is probably going to last another 3-4 years. And if that's the case, then the market will be excited about it. Apple's at 196, Amazon at 187. Amazon back to all-time highs. I mean, the actual all-time high is like 189, but it's very close. Amazon dipped to 173 last week. It dipped pretty low. Let's look at the 1 month. Yeah, look at that. 173.87 on May 31st. So about 11 days ago. Now we're back to 187. Seems like the dip on Amazon was bought as well. Amazon now up 20% year to date. All the Mag 7 is doing amazing except Tesla. Tesla now $170.62. Tesla is the only one of the Mag 7 that is red. Okay, I'm going to play a video. Put in the chat. Do you think Elon gets the vote done? Do you think people vote for Elon? Here's Andrew Ross Sorkin a couple of days ago talking with one of the Tesla chairmen about if this vote goes through. Put in the chat, do you think Elon gets the vote done? Why is Robinhood down? Bitcoin's down. GameStop's down. That's materially affecting Robinhood to the downside. So that's why Robinhood is down today as well. Let's listen to this and then put in the chat, do you think Elon gets the vote done?
There's from around the country, big institutions and others, and there's an opportunity to talk to retailers, retail shareholders about what is going on at Tesla and about this pay package. We've been debating this pay package virtually every day now for weeks, if not months. I've been very outspoken. Yeah, I think a lot of people know my own views about it, but I want to understand your views about it, and not just your views as the lead of the board, but also personally about how you think about what is going on right now.
Yeah, so I think for me, getting out and talking to shareholders is really important. And today is a great opportunity to actually speak directly to retail shareholders who form quite a big part of the ownership structure of the company. And so for me, the ratification of the pay package is really about fairness. Fairness to our CEO. If you look at what's happened at the company over the last 6 years, tremendous value creation, and he's led that. Right. Obviously, the Tesla team has been instrumental in it. But if you sit back, shareholders have benefited tremendously. Over $730 billion of value creation. Employees have benefited tremendously. They're all shareholders in the company, so their stock has risen. Customers have benefited by the tremendous innovation. And the only person who hasn't been paid is actually the leader of the company, Elon.
So, you know my view. I believe a contract's a contract. But there are others who say, and by the way, the court has suggested that this is just too much money. What do you say to that?
Well, it's not about the dollars. It's actually about someone who took a huge risk from a pay perspective. No compensation would have been awarded had he not hit the milestones. And so for me, that risk reward is very important in corporate America.
So what do you guys think? I mean, we've talked about it a lot on the stream, but like ultimately that's the argument. Do you think even if you hate Elon, Apple right now 197, so Apple, nice green candle right there. Even if you don't like Elon as a person, do you think he deserves to get paid? Specifically $56 billion, given that was the exact amount in the contract 5 years ago. Because I feel like we can all agree, even if you don't like Elon, I put a poll right here, 72% of you said yes, he deserves to get paid. Even if you don't personally like the guy, like a contract is a contract, dude. And like, I feel like the Delaware judge, forget whatever the Delaware judge did. If it's honoring the contract, shareholders probably should honor the contract. I mean, it does kind of suck for him to do what he's done over the past 5 years and then not get paid for anything like that. If you do a job, you're supposed to get paid for it. That's the basis of American capitalism, American democracy. So I don't know. Now I don't know if this vote passes. Bernstein said today that the vote will not pass because they don't think they have the institutional shareholders on Elon's side. And so they are skeptical of this vote actually getting passed. Yeah, they said with 25% of shares likely following ISS and Glass Lewis's no recommendation for institutional publicly voting no, the firm believes there's a tough path to approval. Tesla needs over 73% of the remaining voters to approve, assuming a high 75% turnout, which is above the historical max of 63%. They have a $120 price target on the stock, so they are still bearish on what's happening. And there you go. That's what they're talking about. Lunar says fraudulent contract made by a fraudulent board. Well, that's why the contract was rejected by the Delaware judge, right? The reason for why the contract was rejected initially, even if you hate the reason, was that they believe that the board did not act in a sophisticated way when making the contract back in 2018. I get that argument, even though I think it's a little ridiculous. However, 73% of shareholders voted for it. Palantir right here at 2302. So if shareholders voted for it, regardless of if you think the contract is the way the contract was created was weird, people voted. It was democratic at the end of the day. And if Robinhood 2250, if people voted for it, I think the contract should be honored in my personal opinion. Now, the reason Robinhood is down 4% is because Bitcoin is down and GameStop is down. Again, Bitcoin and GameStop being down, the market kind of pegs algorithmically Robinhood to those two asset classes. The problem is Robinhood is the place where all of that goes down. So the short-term price movement is largely irrelevant to me because the market's figured out. I mean, the thing was trading at 2340 pretty much all of yesterday. The market figured out what's happening with Robinhood. And I think the metrics they show over the next couple of months are going to prove that Bitcoin and GameStop being traded on the platform are only good for Robinhood. But in the short term, you will see that price fluctuation given they are pegged to things like Bitcoin. Bitcoin now below 67,000 on the day as well. What else do we have here? Kathy would dump $7.6 million of Robinhood. Yeah. So remember, guys, when Kathy dumps Robinhood, she is not allowed to have a asset that produces 15% or more of its revenue from securities-based trading revenue. This is because of Rule 12D31 by the Securities and Exchange Commissions. So as Robinhood goes higher, she's going to have to liquidate the entire position because if it becomes more than 5% of the fund, given it's a brokerage, she's not able to have that heavy weighting. Coinbase is not technically a brokerage. It's just a crypto exchange, which is why she's able to have that much with Coinbase, but not with Robinhood. So that's why she's ultimately selling. And she's going to end up being out of the stock if it gets closer to like $30. Also, speaking of Robinhood, real quick, one last thing is they have the 1% deposit match that is officially out. So if you update your app, you will see it. I updated my app this morning. The one thing I don't like about this, is this right here. So as you can see, I put in $25 this morning and you get the 1% deposit boost of 25 cents. And it says the boost is paid out over 24 months. I don't like that. I think that's kind of stupid on Robinhood's part. I think they should give you the 25 cents right now and just say, hey, if you take out the money, we're going to take away the 25 cents. But to split up 25 cents over 12 months, or sorry, 24 months is kind of stupid in my opinion. So I hope they change that because it doesn't even feel like a real 1% deposit boost if I don't get my 25 cents immediately. And if I put in, $1 million, are they going to split up the 10,000 over 2 years? So that part I don't really like about this. It helps with their liquidity. I don't know if they have 4 billion in cash, 5 billion in cash. I don't know if it matters. Beneficial says it's genius Amit behind the math and the expenses per quarter. I mean, that's a fair point. It probably does lower their expenses per quarter. That's actually a really good point. I didn't think of that. So that's a good argument. But it doesn't feel as good, quite frankly. And if Robinhood's a user experience thing, I think they should care more about how it feels. Now, granted, it's a nitpicky thing I'm complaining about. I got a free 25 cents, right? Who am I to complain? But it would be nice if I got it all at once, which is what I thought was going to happen, actually. And so that didn't happen. Regardless, the money is money. And so if you have money and you want to put it into Robinhood, if you're going to invest it anyway, you might as well leave it in there and get a free 1% for doing nothing. So it's not like it's the biggest thing to complain about. It's just, I didn't like that I didn't get it immediately because that would have been cooler just to see it pop in. But we'll see. We'll see how that plays out. That means you have to keep the money with them. Yeah, it does. The one thing is that I thought they would be able to give you the money up front and still keep the money in them. I thought they had a way of back checking. Hey, if we give Amit the 25 cents right now, we know that he can keep the money in here and he deserves to keep the 25 cents. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but this will definitely make it easier for them to make sure that the money is in the account and therefore they can continue to pay you the 1%. Now, granted, if you deposit a decent amount of money, it's almost like you're getting a little monthly paycheck from them, right? So my 25 cents over 24 months is kind of stupid. I'm getting like 1 cent a month or whatever. But the point is, if you deposit, 125,000, you're actually getting a decent. I mean, let's do the math right now. So 3% of 125,000 is, or sorry, 1%. That is what, 1,200 something, 1,250. So that divided by 24, you're getting $52 a month, which is like, I guess every month you can look forward to like that just being deposited into your account, which is not the worst thing in the world either. Call Vlad and ask him. You guys really think I have his phone number, bro? I do not have the guy's phone number. Now, granted, I did wish him. He liked my tweet yesterday because he announced this new AI lab thingy, which is, I don't know what the hell he's announcing, but he's using math for like calculating the sophistication of LLMs. So I was like, congrats, dude. Seems really cool. You're doing some cool shit, even though I don't understand it. But super dope that he is trying to be at the forefront of AI. Does Hood give interest on uninvested capital? Yes, they give 5%. They give 5% on uninvested capital. Okay, so that was the Robinhood news. We talked about the Apple event. We talked more about Tesla. Again, I think the vote ultimately comes in for Elon. I think he gets what he wants from the vote. I think it passes, but it's going to be a little interesting to see if it actually goes through. I think it does, but maybe I'm wrong. Now, one thing on Meet Kevin, something I want to show you guys that he actually ended up doing today. He bought two things, or he did a sell and a buy on two different things. Apple almost had 198. Wow, that's incredible for Apple. And Meet Kevin actually has a lot of Apple. I think that's the number one in his portfolio. So Hood shows the metrics at 405. So I'll be live on the market close. We'll look at the metrics at 405. Okay, so he sold NVIDIA and he bought Biddy. He sold NVIDIA and he bought Biddy. Does anyone know what BITI is? Because I didn't know what BITI was. And I looked it up today. Apparently, it's a ProShares short Bitcoin strategy ETF. And it's up today because Bitcoin's down. So Meet Kevin is telling the market via his PP that he is bearish Bitcoin. This thing, as you can see, is up 4% because Bitcoin's down. Bitcoin's down 2%. So I didn't even know this was a thing. This only has 72 million AUM. I would imagine more money is going to start pulling into this. The expense ratio is 1.33%. So that's a pretty high expense ratio. But nonetheless, you can go short Bitcoin by buying this ETF. And I think we're seeing the rise of a lot of different funds, whether they're 2x NVIDIA, 3x Tesla, 2x short NVIDIA, whatever it may be. This is a short Bitcoin ETF. So it's really interesting. He's selling NVIDIA at 122, which I don't blame him for doing that. But he's also buying, or he's going short Bitcoin via this ETF. And that's interesting to me because I thought he thought Bitcoin's going to do well in a more liquid environment based on what the Fed is doing. But it seems like he's signaling that that's not the case. S&P is dumping right now. Where's the S&P? The S&P is not down. I mean, it's down 0.62%. But again, I said I'll reiterate what I said yesterday. The S&P even falling back to 525 or 520 is not that crazy of a deal. I mean, like, it's at all-time highs. We know, like, I don't think any of us can be surprised if the S&P were to fall back to 520, even 510. And then we'll just make our way back up to the 530s, 540s, hopefully by the end of the year. But I think if people sell the S&P right now, or the market, it's primarily due to taking profits, or it's due to the uncertainty that is happening tomorrow with CPI and FOMC on the same day. I mean, we haven't had that in a very long time. So, I mean, to see the market kind of bearish before tomorrow, given the market hates uncertainty, I think that's pretty normal to see. Snowflake, we'll talk about them in a second. A lot of stuff I found on Snowflake yesterday, but Snowflake right here up 0.8% on the day. It's at 127. Tesla, wow, below 170. So Tesla's dumping. Tesla's getting hit. 2.6% down on Tesla, 169. SoFi below 7. Robinhood 22.32. So the entire market's getting a bit red. Arc Innovation at 43. Rocket Lab is down 2%. Gold is up a little bit. Chipotle's down 1%. Elf Beauty's down 2%. Amazon's down 1%. Ulta's down 0.55. DJT's down 3%. That's looking like it's going to fall below $40 right now. Shopify is green. Shopify was relatively oversold at $50. It fell 25% after earnings. Now gaining some momentum. And again, you can say Shopify is still overvalued, but just from a technical perspective, when you fall 25% and you have a really good company, which is Shopify, it's hard to see it going down another 10-15%. SMCI here at 772. So SMCI now down 1.77%. SMCI, remember when this thing was like 1,200 at one point? What was it? Yeah, it was literally 1,200 in February. So that was the peak for SMCI. And then the market realized it's a hardware business that does not have the best margins. And that one came down. Is Micron a play? Chris was talking about Micron last night. So Micron, the interesting thing about Micron is, remember, they had their first profitable quarter 2 quarters ago. And I think they brought in $793 million of profits, and they reaccelerated their growth dramatically. And it's really off the backs of NVIDIA. So I don't know at this valuation if they're the most exciting, but then again, for the semis, maybe valuation is not the most important. It's more so about the tailwinds. Look, this thing was at $52 in 2023, and then towards the beginning of the year was at $80. Now it's at $134. So Micron's had a hell of a year. Still doing a little bit more research on these guys, but them and ARM also have had a good time. I mean, ARM right here, look at ARM up 1.1%. It's no stranger to, my opinion has been that ARM is like stupidly overvalued for the vast majority of the year. I don't understand how something growing at 18% year over year gets to be trading at a PE of 118 with a price to sales of 45. I mean, I know their chips are valuable and what they create is super valuable, but that's kind of absurd to me. Like, it's absurd because when you look at NVIDIA, their growth justifies it, whereas ARM does not justify it at all. But it gets the sympathy of the market because the market basically says, well, where else are we going to go to get this type of exposure other than ARM? And so they're willing to sell an arm and a leg to buy more ARM. Where's Enphase? Okay, so Enphase was at 124 yesterday. Enphase at 128. Now, Enphase is going to be one that takes a nosedive if the Fed is hawkish tomorrow, because Enphase is incredibly rate sensitive. Enphase probably has already bottomed for their earnings, but if they think interest rates are going to be delayed even further, which I don't think that's going to happen, dude. I think we're getting it in September, the cut, then Enphase will take a bit of a hit, but I don't expect that necessarily because I think Jerome Powell is going to be good tomorrow. And CPI is going to come in good. Apple right here trying to get to 200. Let's see if the momentum continues. 198.28. 200 is going to be incredibly psychological. The last time we saw 200 for Apple, when did we see 200 for Apple? So let's do 6 months. Last time we saw this level for Apple, 199, was at December 14th, 2023. December 14th, 2023. Did we ever hit 200 on Apple? I feel like we hit it. If I'm wrong, then the 52-week high is 199.62, but we hit 199 in December. So Apple trying to get back to those levels, and the market seems like artificial Apple intelligence is going to do what they need to do. If NVIDIA is using ARM, though, yeah, and NVIDIA almost tried to buy ARM. So I think that's another reason the market's like, look, maybe we should take ARM seriously, because if NVIDIA tried to buy these guys, S&P right here at 532, then maybe there's something really valuable there that we can't ignore. Okay, let's talk about Snowflake. So Snowflake's going through some weird stuff. Schwab is still down. That's weird. I'm getting some tweets that Schwab is doing fine. I guess for some people it's going down. Very weird that they're going through this thing. But yeah, keep me updated, guys, in the chat if Schwab is working or not. That's not the best thing for Schwab, but I'm sure it's just a technical issue they're having. Okay, let's talk about Snowflake. So yesterday, we were talking about Snowflake, and what's happening right now with Snowflake is some pretty deep investigative journalism by this one account on Twitter, and it's pretty crazy. So let me just read a little bit from this right now. This is why Snowflake's getting hit pretty badly over the past month. We all know they had a data breach attack. Here's some other details on this. The attacks have led to the export of significant volume of customer data from the respective Snowflake customer instances. 165 customers have been affected so far. Now, Snowflake has over 9,000 customers. The problem is there's only 450 that pay them $1 million or more. And I'm assuming the 165 that were affected were probably the customers that pay them a decent amount of money because they're the ones that have the most important data. Hackers got credentials for users within these accounts via malware and downloaded a ton of user data. It sounds like Snowflake definitely at least is partly guilty, as they should have mandated two-factor authentication. If you believe it or not, they did not have two-factor authentication, which kind of insane. Enforce regular password changes, maintain network access lists, and had better network security monitoring to detect unusual activity. And so this is kind of the problem that's going on with Snowflake right now. Now, having said that, there is an account on Twitter, and I don't know if this account is being paid to attack Snowflake, because when you go through the account, it kind of feels like they're being paid to attack Snowflake. I mean, I know I'm not the biggest Snowflake fan, but I would never go after Snowflake in such a way that's it looks like I'm obsessed with them. I just have fun comparing them to Palantir. But this account right here, Lauren Ballack, I mean, if you go through their tweets, they hate Snowflake. I mean, look at what they said right here. Too many morons are excited that Mike Spazer, who's one of the directors at Snowflake, is back in Snow stock with a $10 million purchase that he bought a couple days ago. Folks, you are dumb as a pile of bricks and twice as ugly as a pile of bricks if you think Mike Spazer has your interests in mind. Now, look, I don't think the guy buying $10 million worth of Snowflake is like, oh my God, the most bullish thing in the world. But I would not call people uglier than a pile of bricks. Like, this feels very politically motivated to me for this account. Maybe this account is short Snowflake, maybe, but it's very weird. I have no idea who this person is. It seems like they're a journalist, but they're like, every other tweet is going after Snowflake. And so look what they said. I'm on the battlefield. I'm in the arena. I posted below on Friday last week about Mike Spazer because I started seeing an uptick and I knew he was likely going to start buying. Mike Spazer has done nothing but lead Snowflake investors right into the wood chipper. When he speaks publicly at Snowflake events, Snowflake wheels him in and he speaks through a TV so he doesn't have to set foot in a certain tax jurisdiction. That's actually true. They wheel him in on a TV. Like, he's literally on a TV. So they're right about that. That's definitely true. But it's weird, dude. It's really weird. This account is just going after them. Now, granted, even though I feel like the account is politically motivated, I have no proof for this, but that's what it feels like. They are making some reasonable points. So let's go through another one of their tweets right here about what's going on with Snowflake. It also seems like they hate a lot of SaaS companies. I have no idea what they care about Palantir, but here's what they're saying right here. Nothing but silence from Snowflake. If CEO Ramaswamy Sridhar cannot come up with an answer, he must resign as Snowflake CEO immediately. Number one, Snowflake recognizes revenue from consumption at the time the consumption resources are used. Third-party threat actors use Snowflake consumption in the execution of multiple felonies. This is an organized crime racket coupled with extortion, as there were demands of payment for stolen data. Third, Snowflake has claimed these security events go back to mid-April 2024, which is in Snowflake's last financial quarter. Fourth, Snowflake cannot take revenue directly attributed to the felonies associated with organized crime racket, basically saying they had fraud on their last earnings, because if the cyber attack happened in the last earnings, they can't accept revenue from customers that have been directly affected. Therefore, it's not real revenue. That's what they're trying to claim. I think that's a little bit of a stretch, but that's their argument. If Snowflake takes this revenue, that is a felony itself. They have to net this out and isolate the revenue generated from the felony cyber criminal activity, and they need to put this on file, likely through the 8K with the SEC. Given that Snowflake has claimed the cybercrime activity begun last quarter, Snowflake must restate and amend their 10Q to net out revenue derived from threat actors using Snowflake consumption to execute these felonies. I also think that's why the market is a little scared, because imagine if Snowflake did have to do this, their growth rate would not be 34%. It'd probably be lower than 30%. And then there's a whole TechCrunch article that I'm going to put in the chat if anyone wants to read this, because this is another good piece of journalism that went down for why this is happening. So here's the link in the chat if you guys want to read it. Okay, that link is a little too big, so let me send the tweet. You can go to the tweet and then you can click on the link from the tweet. So in general, I don't know, dude. It does feel like that account is stretching a little bit when it comes to the Snowflake argument. Snowflake right here at 128. And given how aggressive they are in their language, like, if I'm bearish on a stock, I'll be bearish, but I'm not going to say, personal ad hom attacks at investors and the CEO and really try to make it a political agenda. And it seems like that's what this account is doing. And I have no understanding of why, but separating all of that from the actual stuff they're talking about, yeah, it does look like Snowflake messed up pretty badly with the cyber attack. And this is not the good thing. This is not a good thing for Snowflake investors. She's posting about Snowflake profiting off of data using spikes. Yes, I agree about that as well. And I agree that maybe Snowflake profiting off this data in particular, because the data has been hacked, is definitely not the most ethical thing, and definitely not the way they should be presenting earnings. And I remember on 2 earnings calls, I think the CFO was kind of a dick to one of the analysts. Like, the analyst asked a very basic question about why the guidance is down, and he was just really giving him the cold shoulder. So I don't think the management is the best at Snowflake, but this account is just going at them at a hardcore route. And that's why Snowflake is struggling right now. So that's where you got Snowflake here at 127. Granted, I do agree with Garcia right here in the chat. The darling of Wall Street isn't so cute anymore. Yeah. The darling of Wall Street is definitely not so cute anymore. And look, they're going through a tough situation. I think Snowflake bounces from here, but this investigation, the thing is, the CEO has not made a comment yet. And so Sridhar needs to come out and actually address these arguments. I mean, imagine if Palantir had their customers' data leaked. I mean, dude, the amount of Palantir already gets treated as like a data spy, evil company. If Palantir had customer data that was leaked and then and hackers stole it from Palantir, Palantir is supposed to be, one of the most secure companies on the planet. Like that Palantir would not hear the end of it. So I do think the criticism is fair. I'm just curious where the criticism is coming from that particular account. Where is the motivation? And if that's actually going to hurt their earnings going forward when it comes to Snowflake. So we'll see how that plays out. AMD's down 1.6%. Rocket Lab's down 2.6%. Apple at 199. Look at Apple, 50 cents away from, I think, an all-time high at 200. Any responses from Brad Gerstner? He actually did make a response yesterday. I'm going to play it in a little bit on his podcast. It's like a 2-minute response. It wasn't a good response, but I mean, he just says that software is not dead. And it's like, I think sometimes we tend as humans to think that if you're super successful, you know more than other people. And unfortunately, that's not always the case, right? Just because you're super successful, it doesn't mean you can get things wrong. Brad Gerstner, amazing investor, very smart guy, but he could be wrong, and I think he's dead wrong on Snowflake. I just think he's wrong. So for the people that trust in Brad Gerstner, go ahead, trust him. But his response I got yesterday in his podcast was not exciting. His argument was just like, oh, when there's fear in the streets, you have to buy. And it's like, okay, but like, what if sometimes the fear is warranted, right? Like addressing the heart of the claim is not really what he talks about. Apple right here is 30 cents away from 200. It looks like it's going to happen. I'm wondering if their early CEO quit because of the leak. Wow, that's a good point, Sashi. I'm wondering if their early CEO quit because of the leak. If the leak spawns back to December, then he would have known by February when he quit, which is a hell of a point. And maybe Snowflake was thinking it wouldn't get leaked, but then it ended up getting leaked. And it's just not a good look, dude. It's not a good look at all. And Wall Street, 60% of the stock is owned by the street. So the street has to reconcile if they continue to hold. And again, I think at 127, it's deeply oversold. I just don't know if it's oversold enough for the street to get so excited to load up on millions of shares of Snowflake at this point, especially if they don't see the AI moat, which is the Salesforce earnings doesn't help Snowflake's case that there is this massive AI tailwind coming behind them as well. So Apple right here at 199.78, they're struggling to try to get to 200. It's very psychological. They peaked at 199.87. Tons of people selling right now as well at 199. Probably if you bought at 160, not a bad gain from 160 to 199. But if there's enough buyers, then we might see this thing pop to 200. It's up 3.4% right now on the day. Where's Tesla? We'll go back to Apple in a second. Wow, Tesla's down another 3%. So the vote, guys, does the vote happen on the 13th or the 12th? Does it happen on the 13th or the 12th? I think it's the 13th, right? Because if the vote happens on the 13th, then that means the market's basically getting scared of Tesla not getting this vote. They're basically selling it off before the vote. That's what we're seeing right now. I don't think the vote is tomorrow. I think it's the 13th. 13th, right? Okay, 13th. Cool. So if it's the 13th, we got 2 days until that vote. Market's definitely scared right now that Elon's not going to get it. And you can't blame them, dude. So here's the string of events. Here's the two worlds that could happen, right? If Elon doesn't get the vote, the first world is that he says, okay, instead of 56 billion, pay me 45 billion, right? And he does a revote. The problem is the delta between 56 and 45 is not that dramatic. And so what if he loses the second vote, right? Like if he loses the second vote, Chewy right now up 1.54%. If he loses the second vote, he's not going to go down to 30 billion and 20 billion. Like we're not going to do this 17 different times, right? He's going to have to take compensation that is significantly below 56 billion, which what is the bright line? I don't know. 10 billion, 15 billion, 5 billion, 1 billion. I have no idea. But he's going to have to take a pay cut. And given Elon's ego, which he deserves to have an ego, given what he's done, I don't think he's taking a pay cut. I think he's going to seriously think about leaving. Now, do I think he leaves? No. Ultimately, gun to my head, I don't think he leaves. But there's going to be a lot of uncertainty if he loses that vote because he's got $6 billion in fresh funding. He's got a SpaceX where he really wants to go to Mars more than he wants to transfer the world on sustainable energy, in my opinion. I think he cares more about Mars. If he gets to work full-time at Mars, at SpaceX, and build Neuralink and build XAI and compete with OpenAI because he hates Sam Altman and say, yeah, you know what? Tesla's just a car company. It'll always just be a car company and someone else can run it as a car company. I don't think that happens, but you can't say the market's crazy for thinking that's his route. You can't say the market's crazy for thinking that he decides to just leave and go do a ton of other stuff. But again, I don't think that's going to happen. I just don't think that's going to happen. He's not leaving. He knows 90% of retail investors support him. Well, here's the thing. If he gets the vote from retail, but he loses the institutional vote, which means he loses the overall vote, I mean, would you stay if you're not going to get paid? Put yourself in Elon's shoes. Would you stay if you're not going to get paid what you were owed? Like, or at least how much would you stay for, right? Like if you're Elon and you 10x the company, how much do you stay for? Do you stay for 5 billion? Do you stay for 10 billion? If you don't get 56 billion, Tesla right here, 168. At some point you have to have a number. S&P 533 right now. So S&P recovering a little bit. And I don't know what that number is for Elon. NVIDIA at 122. But in my heart of hearts, I don't think Elon's leaving Palantir 2308. I just think that it's going to be a little scary for the market to deal with the fact if you lose the vote. Robinhood right here, 2258 as well. If they leave and the stock tanks $20 to $30 and then they lower the package by like 5 million and revote, it probably would get like a 99% vote for on that vote. That's true. I mean, one argument could be that he wants the stock to tank and then he's just going to buy the stock himself in some way, or he's going to do a revote and the stock's going to be at a cheaper price. Like there's a lot of different ways, I guess, this scenario plays out. But I just think he deserves to get paid, and hopefully he ends up getting paid. Schwab is up. All right, Schwab is back. So now everyone can buy their GameStop if you want Schwab to facilitate GameStop transactions. GameStop is down 2.7%. Where's AMC? AMC, let's go to the DGen portfolio. AMC is up 2%. The DGen portfolio is red across the board. Reddit is up a little bit. DJT is down. AMC is up. GameStop's down. Tupperware is down. SunPower is down. Space is down. Hollow's down. Faraday Future is down. Mullen is down. Beyond Meat is down. Spirit is down. All of those companies that pumped are now down from a couple weeks ago. You can now transfer your Schwab to Robinhood. Yes, that is correct. You can now do that as well. Those Robinhood metrics after the bell, man. So here's my expectations. I think we're gonna get 90,000 new accounts. I think we're gonna get 10 billion or more in crypto trading volumes, 80 billion in equities, and probably 120 million in options. And then I think we're going to get probably 3 billion in net deposits. Those are my predictions. And I think if we get those numbers, the market and margin balances, I think we'll go from 4.1 billion to 4.2 to 4.3. If we get those numbers across the board, I think the street's going to be excited. Now, if we get 130,000 accounts and 4 billion in deposits and crypto volumes are at 20 billion, like if it really exceeds expectations, the market's going to be really excited. But we're going to see what they say later today at 4:05. Cool. Okay, so that's what we got going on. Where is Enphase right now? 125, GameStop 23, AMC 470, and then we got here Tesla 168. Apple really not getting to that $200 level. It's getting rejected heavily at 200, but it's trying to get there. Let's hear from Brad Gerstner real quick. This is like 2 minutes of him talking about this whole software Salesforce thing being dead, and then we'll move on to something else as well.
Apple Intelligence is out this morning talking about AI service that they're going to unveil, right? They have not spent tens of billions of dollars building LLMs or frontier models. And there's some people who are critical of that bill. And I imagine they're looking at it and saying, we don't see the industrial logic. We don't see the return. It's known to be a very financially and fiscally conservative company. And so they'll probably announce a partnership with OpenAI. My sense is they probably look at that and say, oh, that's a transition for us. Let them spend all the huge early dollars. We'll come in and be a late mover. We'll spend a fraction of the money. And ultimately, we control the platform. We control the device. And so we're not at risk of getting disintermediated. My point is that I think there are different choices being made by different companies. That said, using the Apple example, I do think that the heat is so loud. Even on this very podcast, we go on, what are they doing? Why haven't they made Siri better? The drumbeat gets to the point. If they were to hold that tomorrow and not mention AI, which they would never do, right, it would raise immense questions.
No, that's for sure. Of course not. Why would they? But I think they're going to have a series of announcements, in terms of integrating.
Okay, real quick. I thought I was playing the exact part. This is the good part about YouTube. You can do the transcript. Let me just Command F Snowflake. There we go. Okay, so I think that's where I'm looking for right here. This is okay. So I was looking at a little bit here. Here we go. We'll start right here.
With expansion dollars. And
no, there's no doubt about it. That's what we've seen. That's why I think you see some of this core slowing. Then one thing you didn't point out is when people have questions like about the future, which they do around AI. So let's say they're spending a bunch of money on Workday, spending a bunch of money on Salesforce, spending a bunch of money on Snowflake or Databricks or you name it. And now they go in to present their case for this year. And the first question that's going to get asked of them is, well, how are these guys doing with AI? What are they doing with AI? Is this the multi-year bet we want to make? Or should we be betting on Google? Or should we be betting on Microsoft Azure? It just freezes. It says, go back, do more analysis, and then come back to me. And I think that's probably the number one thing you're seeing here, Bill. Rather than budget pressures, what I really think you're seeing is the slowing down and the elongation of the big commits, because people really need to make sure that they're betting on the future, not on the past.
Well, and that becomes especially true in two areas. One is any area where LLMs are proving to be effective. And so in the enterprise, customer support is the one everyone's talking about, right? So if you sell a system in that space, and it's going to cause this freezing you're talking about writ large, because this is the area where enterprises are experimenting the most. It's where there's the most number of application-based AI startups.
No way, you can't do that. People don't want a constellation of services. Like, all these things exist because this is what Salesforce customers are demanding of them. But I think part of the reason Salesforce has recovered well here, Bill, is this is a company that has gotten fit, right? This is a company that is running efficient. So out of their $13 billion of free cash flow, they convert I think they have $2 or $3 billion in SBC. And so they convert over $10 billion in free cash flow. So if you look at it for a market leader, it's not that expensive, even though its growth rate has slowed way down. And then I think, listen, you've asked me a fair bit about Snowflake, and folks because we were early investors in that company, I get questions about Snowflake and Databricks and these data platforms all the time. Like, what does it mean for the database? What does it mean for these data platforms? So maybe just a second on that, right? I think one of the things people question, when in the case of Snowflake, growth decelerates to 26%. People are like, okay, yes, the multiple on free cash flow has come down a lot, but they still have a lot of SBC. A lot of that, all that free cash flow gets eaten up by SBC. So a lot more scrutiny gets put on those free cash flow. And I think they're going to have to demonstrate how the growth rate will remain higher for longer, and how they can get more fit around SBC if they want to maintain or, re-expand their multiple. But, when I evaluate them or Databricks across the three axes, that Aaron laid out, they have a lot of things that they can expand and are upsides, I think, from AI. First, I just think the core business of data is a primitive to AI.
So this part I don't get. He's like, well, Snowflake's going to win because you need AI. For AI to be valuable, you need data. But if Snowflake's not offering AI capabilities or AI data analytic features within that data, if it's just a lakehouse for the data, aka it doesn't have an ontological understanding of your data, which is what Karp's been talking about, then where is Snowflake's growth, even if they are the data foundation for AI? It seems like any company can be the data foundation for AI, but you actually need the AI to be implemented on top of it. And I don't know if Snowflake's offering that, which is why Brad's saying, well, it's a data play and you need data to make AI valuable. I don't know if that's necessarily going to lead to more AI-enabled growth for Snowflake.
You need structured data. You need unstructured data. I happened to be at their event last week. I see the head of data from ExxonMobil talking about how they're going, all in on data engineering and the data platform there. And there's a lot more, workloads that they're going to bring to bear. So I think just the stickiness of enterprise relationships outside of Silicon Valley, it's deep and it's broad, and these companies have made long-term commitments to these platforms. They're not just going to shift them, in a second, though they may slow down expansions to the point we just made. But what are a couple of the easy...
So that's the core point he made. Again, you guys can watch the pod. 49:36 is the timestamp. Again, I just don't think as smart as Brad is, and I know it's crazy for me to be critiquing Brad because Brad is much smarter than me. Apple right here, 3 cents away from 200, but still, I think it's logical to say he's kind of just saying data without really speaking to the core of the tech. And as a result of that, I don't know. I don't know if Snowflake necessarily becomes that big enterprise solution that the world thinks it can become. But granted, at 128, let me say this again and again and again, I do think it's oversold, and I think it will pump from there. All right, we need 1 cent to get to 200. The market is not giving us that 1 cent on Apple. Look at this. It's literally fighting for its life at 199, 199.98. We cannot get that 1 cent. This is incredible. GME is moving. Where's GameStop? GameStop's now up 4%. Did Roaring Kitty tweet? Did the kitty say something? Let me go to his Twitter. We'll stare at Apple while we're... Wow. Literally the market makers are crazy, bro. They really won't get us to 200. Roaring Kitty, he did not tweet anything. I don't know why GameStop's moving. Apple is red. GameStop now... Wow, GameStop's halted. What is going on? Dude, how... No, okay. This feels weird. How do you get halted off a 5% move? Is that just me? Or this is insane. GameStop gets halted over a 5% move? I have never seen something like that, dude. 5%? That's nothing. A stock can't go up 5% without getting halted? What, was there that much buying coming in all at once? That can't just be me, dude, right? That saw that. Like that's insane. I've never seen that before. 5% up and it gets halted. Wow. It's the 5% rule. Yeah, there's a 5%. What is this? Apple, is Apple 200? Apple 190. Apple hit 200 for like 2 seconds and it went down. Wow. That is incredible. GameStop got halted within 5%. That's incredible. GameStop halted after going up literally 4.7%. Dude, that is crazy. Talk about manipulation. I mean, maybe it actually was so hard that it halted the entire stock, but like I find that hard to believe. Apple now falling below 200, was not able to keep that up. AMC is moving as well, up 4.3%. AMC is not halted. GameStop's halted. Tesla 169. S&P 533.38. S&P recovering a little bit right here. Robinhood 2260. Apple again right below 200, and then GameStop still halted. That is interesting, dude. It's been halting since this morning. I have not seen it get halted the whole day. That's weird. This is the first time I saw it get halt. That is so weird, dude. That is so weird. I have never seen it get halted that quickly. Wow. That is weird. Dude, a stock going up 5% is not enough to get halted. I mean, unless the volume is that substantial, but the volume being that substantial is not a reason to halt it unless the price action move. Like if it went up 40%, like, yeah, I get it. Or even 15%, which is not insane at all, but like, I get it. 5% is just 5%. That's very weird. So, okay, we'll see what happens with them in a little bit. They should be back. Apple, again, not getting over that $200 level, getting stuck at 199. But Apple still trying to get back to 200. SoFi's at $7 on the dot right here. SoFi's been struggling, dude, to get above 7. Dude, I think this is the longest SoFi has ever been below 7, right? Like this little $6.80 to $7 game that SoFi's been playing for the past couple of months. I don't know, man. It's been hit. I think their next earnings is in August or July. And after that, hopefully we see a bit of a pump if we're going to get a rate cut. But that one's getting hit right now. I mean, what do you think about Fastly stock? I actually don't know anything about Fastly. I've heard about this stock. I have to do more research on them. They're up what? They're down 0.4% of the day. Fastly over the past month is down. Yeah, I don't know much about them. Year to date, wow, they got hit. They were $25 in February. Now it's $7.30. I'll have to look into them a little bit more to see 5-minute rule when it goes up or down more than 10% in 5 minutes. Well, that was a big move on GameStop. And I'm wondering why. Why did that move happen all of a sudden? That is kind of weird. Why did it happen all of a sudden? Did he schedule another live stream? Let's check on YouTube. Did he check? That could be a reason. Roaring Kitty. No, there's no live streams that are scheduled. Maybe it was him buying more. I mean, technically, that could be a reason. Yeah, there's no reasons. I don't see any reasons why it's halted. Very weird. Why is TFC down? I actually don't know. Why is TFC down? How bad is TFC down? TFC down 1.5. Well, did you guys see that headline the other day that some board said that there's like 60 banks that are going to go under or something? I saw the headline like last Wednesday, but I couldn't cover it. Maybe that's why the regionals are struggling. Is KRE down as well? The regionals, yeah, KRE is down 1%. Yeah, maybe there's a little bit of instability in the banking sector, and there's a little bit of fear that some more banks are going to fail, which would be bad for. I don't think it would be that bad for TFC. Quite. I think that's going to be more consolidation, but that's the perception is that's going to be bad for the entire banking sector. XLF, is that down? Yeah, that's down 2%, and then JP Morgan's probably down. Yep, JP Morgan's down 2.4%. Yeah, so it's this. I think the reason every bank is down is because of the fear of the banking sector potentially seeing some more defaults overall, which is why that's getting hit. Ellie says, thank you, Amit. Please look into it. Thank you for all the great videos and live streaming, watching you from Sweden. That's awesome, Ellie. Thank you for watching from Sweden. I got to go to Sweden one day. I think that's where Daniel Ek is from, CEO of Spotify. Speaking of Spotify, Spotify is up today 2% because they are adding an additional subscription tier to their pricing for $5. So I think Spotify right now, it's already up $1. It's like $11.99 a month. You can pay $17 a month if you want high definition audio. So if you really care about your music, they're giving you the chance to pay even more money to get a higher tier of subscription. And that's why Spotify is up like 60% year to date. Spotify is one I will admit I got wrong. My thesis on Spotify a year ago was that GameStop's unhalted. Okay, GameStop's back, now up 2%. My thesis on Spotify was that the record labels are taking all of their money and they're not going to be able to figure out how to make a profit. And I think what I got wrong there is that the network effects of Spotify are so deep that it's really difficult to disrupt a company that already has all those users. It's kind of like my thesis on Robinhood, right? Like you could argue Robinhood doesn't have a moat, but if they have the user experience, they really do have a moat. And I switched from Spotify to YouTube Music a couple of years ago because I didn't see the reason for paying for Spotify, but hundreds of millions of people do see a reason to pay for Spotify. And once you have them, they're probably never going to leave, right? So I think that's why Spotify has done well. And when it got to $70, again, the market basically thought of Spotify as a company that could monopolize the user bases and they could eventually monetize them. I mean, look, if Robinhood charges an extra $1 for Robinhood Gold, everyone's going to pay $6 a month instead of $5 a month, right? Same thing with Spotify. If you have your entire music history for 10 years on Spotify, you're going to pay an extra couple bucks a month. You're not really going to think twice. And I think that's what the market's betting on. And as long as Spotify can increase their operating margins, they're gonna create a healthy profit. And so that's why Spotify has done well this year. GameStop up 2% right now, $25.34, which is nice. Al says you're welcome to have a free guest bedroom for you in Sweden. All right, Al, I will take you up on that offer because the Airbnb in Sweden is probably going to be ridiculous given how expensive they are. By the way, so thank you for that. I appreciate it. A bunch of people asked if I could stay with them in the Bay Area. So I appreciate anyone who potentially has been able to house me. It's been really humbling and super, super nice. And I think in the summer, I said I'm not going to be traveling a lot in the summer, but I think I'll be traveling a little bit. I think I'll definitely be back to California in the summer. So definitely we'll have a proper kind of tour of meeting you guys, at least if you're in the Bay Area in the summer, because I'm pretty sure I'll be back in the summer. And so definitely I'll have actual time to meet with people and we'll get to see a bunch of people. What was the ticker I was about to look at? It was Spotify, Apple. I just forgot, but Apple right here, Apple 199.55, Robinhood 22.65. Airbnb. That's what I was gonna look at. So Airbnb 147.96. Here's a question in the chat. Airbnb, buy or sell? What do you think? Bullish or not bullish on Airbnb? Bullish or not bullish on Airbnb? Year to date, the thing is down like 8%, 170 to 140, or like 10%. Bullish or not on Airbnb? The reason why I'm asking is because my good friend Arnie, who stayed with me at the Palantir AIP Con at an Airbnb, we stayed up for like 2 hours trying to talk about if there's a bull case for Airbnb. In fact, one of the funniest things about Airbnb? So we were talking to a Palantir employee, right? And again, this goes back to show you guys how the culture of the company is. We went up to a Palantir employee who we were talking to for like 40 minutes. And then we were like, hey, would you buy Airbnb or not? And he said no. And the reason for why this Palantir employee said no, it's not because of valuation. It's not because he doesn't like Brian Chesky or anything. Brian Chesky is an amazing CEO, like one of the most iconic founders of all time, in my opinion. His reason for why he doesn't like Airbnb and why he's probably not selling any of his Palantir stock for a long time is because Airbnb has sacrificed, in his words, curation for scale. What does that mean? That means he thinks Airbnb is trying to become so big and like get as many more houses onto the platform and users, etc., that they're sacrificing the scale and the quality of the houses they're attracting onto the platform. And from his perspective, now, I don't agree with that as the biggest bear case. I understand it, and I think there's a lot of merit to it. I don't think that's the largest bear case, but his argument points to how he thinks about Palantir, which is not sacrificing the culture and the curation of products and the experience they're delivering to the end customer that's actually getting value from using Foundry, AIP, Apollo, etc., just because of scale. And so from his perspective, he was like, at Palantir, we're going to keep scaling, but we're going to scale in a way that makes sure all of our customers benefit from the scale. We're not going to scale like a snowflake and then have a customer breach of 165 customers, right? I know that's a low blow right now for Snowflake, but like that's what happens when you scale that fast, when you hire all these salespeople, when you're giving out so much stock-based compensation to people that are on the phone all day and not actually coding, right? You are diluting the value of the company, and it leads to not caring and having the most obvious mistake of not having two-factor authentication on. And so his argument was that Airbnb sucks because they're allowing all these random houses onto the platform, and that's not really creating any benefit for people. That's just creating more, houses and supply, which is what they need to do given they're a two-sided marketplace. And that's why he's bearish Airbnb. Do you guys disagree with that argument? Because I understand that argument, but I'm thinking of it more from a business perspective. I think Airbnb is a monopoly. I think their only competition is hotels, which are legit competition. I mean, if you're an enterprise, you're not sending your C-suites to a fucking Airbnb. Like, you're sending them to the Hilton, the Marriott, the Sheraton, all that stuff, right? The Ritz-Carlton, which is more upper class hotel chains. But I think for the vast majority of people, dude, and I know Airbnb does have competition, it's not a literal monopoly, but like most people use Airbnb when they're going on a vacation. I'm pretty sure everyone in the chat has used Airbnb at least once. So someone says the user experience sucks. Okay, so that was the Palantir employee argument. His argument was the user experience sucks. Now, granted, the Airbnb I went to in California, their AC wasn't working. Thank God they had a fan because it was hot in California, but at least they had a fan. This is the first time I turned on a fan in so long. I was like, wow, I've not used a fan in a while. But so that user experience, I don't want to say it sucked, but it definitely wasn't the best. And it literally, his argument about them sacrificing curation for scale made sense to me. When I went to the Airbnb, I was like, wow, the AC is not working, even though it's supposed to be working. But I don't know if that's the biggest bear case for Airbnb. I don't know if that's the biggest bear case. Does Airbnb have continental breakfast? No, they don't have continental breakfast. Airbnb's hitting costs have crept up pretty high over the years. Yeah, that's another bear case that people just don't like the cost. Now, I think they've tried to do a good job being more transparent about that, but the costs have been up there. And it's still cheaper than a hotel, in my opinion. A lot of times. I mean, dude, if I went through a hotel, I would have had to pay like $500 a night on a discount rate in California. So I paid like $100 at the Airbnb, which is not that bad, so it was cheaper, but a hotel probably still does have a better experience. Ali says, I personally don't use Airbnb because they are expensive. Maybe if you are more than 4 to 6 people, but if you're 1 or 2 people, it's expensive. That's a good point as well. Apple's holding well above 200. Are we above 200 for Apple? Are we actually above? Wow. Look at that. 4% on the day. Apple trying to hit 201. Wow. Look at that. $200 on Apple. So now Apple year to date is officially up, I think, 7%? 8.24% on the year. Tesla's the only one out of the Max 7 that's down year to date. Apple is up. Put in the chat if you own Apple. Put in the chat. Who actually owns Apple here? Who's long Apple? And who got into Apple? Apple now 201 at 167. 167, look, we said on the stream it was a buy. We said at 155 it's a really good buy. At 167, we all said it was a buy. I'm pretty sure the entire chat agreed. Even though I didn't like the Vision Pro, I was like 167, it's a buy. I just didn't buy it because I don't know if I want to hold Apple for the next decade, dude. Like, I just don't know what I'm buying when I buy Apple. I'm buying a business that did $90 billion in revenue last quarter. $45 billion was the iPhone, which is amazing. But if half your revenues are a product that you're not really innovating on, unless the AI super cycle, upgrade cycle is yada, yada, unless that thesis plays out, which it very well could. I don't think Dan Ives is necessarily wrong on that. I think he's definitely wrong about Vision Pro. I think that shit's dead. But if not, then maybe that's the reason why at least the route to 250 or 300 comes from the AI phone. Leslie owned Apple for 10 years. Dream and Forest Apple since 2014. You can't go wrong with Apple. I mean, I own Apple through Berkshire. To be honest, this is making me considering selling my Berkshire. Why are you considering selling your Berkshire? Cause why not? What's the reason? Was it the AI event that's making you consider selling that? I'm also curious if Berkshire is going to use the pump to 200 as liquidity. Because maybe Berkshire, I mean, dude, Berkshire did sell 13% of their stake. That's not an insignificant amount. If they got a pump to 200, maybe they sell and Apple buys back their stock at the price that Berkshire sells, and Apple gives Berkshire and Buffett the exit liquidity he needs to get out of the position, or at least significantly reduce the position. So that might be something we're going to see from Berkshire over the next 45 days when they release the 13Gs. PayPal right now down 3% on the day. TFC 35.42, Apple 201, DNA below 50 cents. CrowdStrike still up. Incredible. Celsius down 3% again, dude. Celsius Celsius went from 75 to 63 over the past week. Is Snowflake green? Snowflake still maintaining their green at 1.19%. But Celsius just getting hammered, bro. Goodness gracious. Airbnb 148, Spotify 312, PayPal 6502 on the day. Apple still 201.50 right now as well. I'm shocked Palantir is holding 23 above getting snubbed from the S&P. Yeah, and again, I'm shocked with you, bro. Wow, I didn't even know Palantir was green. 23.27. We're up almost 1%. I like there's no press release that came out. No. I think people might be watching AIPCon, which I'll react to that over the next week. I'm going to react to a bunch of videos, but some of the videos at AIPCon, dude, like that United presentation was gold. And maybe the market's starting to look at that a little bit more and say, hey, let's take some of our SaaS spend and let's take it out of the Snowflakes and the CRMs and let's put it into Palantir. But yeah, I don't know why Palantir's up either, because the rest of SaaS, is CRM up today? Yeah, CRM's up a little bit. So SaaS is green. So maybe Palantir is moving with SaaS. But in general, maybe the market's just getting a bit more excited about their AI initiatives. Again, not every presentation in AIPCon was great. I'll definitely be objective there. I think some of the presentations were just like not as strong as they needed to be, quite frankly. Like the speakers weren't that good, and it is what it is. But the United one I thought was phenomenal. And I thought Tampa General and I thought Jacobs, those three I thought were some of the best presentations. And the Northwind one, that company's 85 employees, dude. So that's another one that was, the presentation wasn't incredible, but like the fact that CEO, who's, not a public facing CEO, he's not the CEO of a Fortune 500 company, he came on the stage and he talked to all these people about how they're using AIP in a small Midwestern company. I thought that was also a really good addition to the conference. And it was a good way to see how AIP is being used in a lot of different companies. We need more patience with Palantir. It takes years for some of them to get to the S&P 500. I agree. I think the only way we get to the S&P 500 is institutional ownership goes up, and that might take a year or two. It really might. But honestly, I think that's okay. I think Palantir getting to the S&P 500 right now is very premature. I think funds buying it right now reduces the opportunity for retail to get in below 30, because I think once we get past 30, we're not coming back to the 20s. And so I think if we get a chance to buy in the low 20s, I have zero complaints about it. As long as the company is executing and the stock is, relatively 20 to 24, 25, I think that's a buy zone for me. And, in the next year, if we're at 30, 35, we're going to all be hating ourselves that we didn't buy more at 22, 23. So there's no need to have it to get rushed into there. Palantir doesn't have catalysts this year. Palantir just has to prove it can grow. Whereas a company like Robinhood, they have so many catalysts that's going to affect the stock, because the catalysts are so monumental on the stock that you're going to see momentum in the stock price just given the catalyst. Palantir, it's up 30% year to date. It doesn't have any catalyst. It just needs to grow into the valuation. And if it stays in the same range and keeps growing, the metrics are going to look better and better. And then eventually in 2025, it can take the next leg up, which I think is fine. Or by the end of 2024, it can take the next leg up, which is also not the worst thing for Palantir as well. A lot of articles about speculation for the next inclusions. That's why Palantir is pushing up right now. I don't think that's the reason Palantir is up, but I do think Palantir ran up before the S&P 500 announcement because of that same speculation. It was the Maven contract, It was AIPCon, and then it was the speculation of S&P 500. All of that happened at the same time. That pushed us up to this $23 range as well. Palantir has Catalyst signing deals with the U.S. Navy, Air Force, Space Force, etc. Yeah, but what I mean Catalyst, I mean like stuff that's predictable. Like we have no idea when that's going to happen, you know? So that's why it's hard to like say it's a catalyst. It's definitely a catalyst. It's just not something that we know. All right, in November we can expect XYZ to happen. But when it does, and I think that's the fear of not having enough Palantir in the portfolio for some of these institutions, when they get a contract that's as big as $500 million in a day, I mean, you start to realize maybe I don't have enough exposure. But when it does happen, it gets more exciting. What do you think happens on CPI tomorrow? I think CPI comes in cold. I think we come in probably at 3.3-ish. We had 3.4. I know that's not a significant decline, but it is a decline. If anything, 3.2 is not crazy to me because of the fact that oil, which by the way, oil is down again today. Oil was down for the majority of May. Look at oil, 77.45 down 0.37%. It was below 80 for the majority of May. That should definitely do well. And as long as nothing ticked up like, you know, some of the other stuff in regards to meat and poultry, used cars, auto insurance, which I think they were down last month, but they're going to be down again, then we should have a good CPI. And if we have a good CPI, then hopefully that leads the rate for at least the potential for rate cuts coming over the next few months, hopefully in September, which is going to be important. Let's get a little bit more coverage on Apple. I want to see some more stuff. So Apple's still holding above 200. Want to get a couple more thoughts on why the street likes what's happening with Apple. And then we'll keep going from there. Yeah, let's listen to this. And then we'll see what else we get. CPI is going to be at 820. 820 tomorrow. Well, 8:30, but I'll be live 8:20. I will not oversleep. And we'll see what happens with CPI. All right, let's get some more updates on Apple.
Generative AI plans at its Worldwide Developers Conference. It called Apple Intelligence, and it's now going to integrate all hardware and software products into it. Plus, users can ask Siri to use ChatGPT. That feature apparently irking Elon Musk, who called the software integration between the two companies a, quote, unacceptable security violation and threatened to ban Apple devices from his companies if the company integrates OpenAI at what he described as the operating level. I would say from my reading of it, it's not really integrated at the operating level, but we're going to discuss this right now. Joining us, one of the journalists who attended Apple's event, Joanna Stern, the Wall Street Journal senior personal technology columnist and a CNBC contributor. I want to get into your review, which was fascinating to read this morning in the Journal. It's worth a read for those who haven't seen it yet. But help us answer the question. Maybe I don't understand it. It did not appear to me that ChatGPT is genuinely integrated at the operating level, more that this was something that you would sort of use almost like an API and sort of push out to in certain instances when you need it, but that it wasn't necessarily living inside the iOS itself.
Absolutely correct. What Apple talked about yesterday was doing a lot of this AI processing either in Apple's on the device or using Apple's cloud services, what they've called private cloud compute. And this is a way they've invented basically that it's secure on the cloud and it's in their servers and in their world. That said, if there is something that requires a larger language model and Apple feels like we can't answer that, they're going to go out and ask you if you can ask ChatGPT. But you get a pop-up. They showed this a number of times during the presentation. You get a pop-up, a notification that says, can we go ask ChatGPT this question? And you confirm that. So what was your general, and so, by the way, before, just to finish this off, if you were Elon Musk, and I don't remember if he had tweeted this prior to the presentation or right after, but if you were to actually dig into this and look at it, do you think that he would say this is integrated or not? I think Elon Musk had a very rash reaction to hearing the news, hearing ChatGPT is integrated in iOS. And sure, you can think that, but that's just not the case, at least according to what Apple is saying and what they're showing.
It also seemed to me that longer term, and there were some references to it yesterday, it's very possible that in the future, instead of just going out to go use a large language model like ChatGPT, you may very well do it with Gemini. You may very well be able to click off and go to Grok if you want.
Absolutely. Absolutely. People need to think about this as you can choose what search engine you use on your iPhone in Safari. Well, I think you're going to be able to choose which large language model you use through Siri. And that was really the point they were making yesterday, is that Siri is going to be this portal to getting information and your AI assistant. They never used the word or term AI, but your Apple assistant or your Apple intelligence. And so eventually, they say, there may be other large language models that integrate through there. Google, Claude, whichever ones that are out there now, Apple will have to make that deal. But they've made this first deal with OpenAI. And so now Siri can go and do that.
Can I ask?
So, I mean, like, again, maybe that's why the market's also getting excited about this, because if there is this multifaceted approach to models, Palantir right here, 2324, then that's Apple being the gateway. Apple, wow, 202. Apple healthily above 200 right now. That's Apple being the gateway to access, or for developers and models to access users. And it's almost like if you're not on the App Store, like you're not relevant as a consumer product. If you're a large language model and you're not integrated via Siri and have the chance to be chosen as a default model for users, you don't get the majority of the questions that people will ask. Same thing as search results, right? So maybe that's also how the market's interpreting it, is like Apple's playing chess here. Even though they're using third-party models, they think of the models as search engines. And if those models are search engines, Apple doesn't need to own a search engine. They just need to be the playground where all the search engines play to be able to try to get user engagement, feedback, and ultimately usage at the end of the day. So, I mean, that could be an argument for why Apple, that's an easy way to spin the bear case for Apple, right? The bull case for Apple. And that's what gets the stock higher, 5% now on the day. Robin here, 22.89, as we're seeing right here. PayPal, 64.73. Snowflake, 129. Palantir, 23.25. So all of SaaS, I think, is having a good morning right now. Okay, never mind. That's mixed results. So Oracle, we get earnings after the bell today. Adobe's down. Did you guys see the news on Adobe? And then GitLab, Twilio, Intuit is down. The rest of SaaS is up. So Adobe put out some stuff the other day that's basically them trying to steal your data. And I know we keep saying steal your data, but they are literally trying to steal your data. So they put out this new terms of service. And in the terms of service, they said, hey, anything you guys produce via our AI, we have access to it, which is kind of insane, dude. So this is what they say. Clarify that we may access your content through both automated and manual methods. We may access, view, or listen to your content through both automated and manual methods, but only in limited ways as permitted by the law. For example, in order to provide the services and software, we may need to access, view, or listen to your content, respond to feedback or support requests, detect, prevent, otherwise address fraud, security, legal, etc. Basically, what they're saying is that in order to train their models to give you better generative AI results, they can take a look into the stuff you're creating, which if you're using Adobe, there's a lot of NDA specific work that you're using when you're building client content. And for Adobe to use that content to train on their models, not really the best thing in the world. Not the best thing in the world. So I think that stock struggling right now, 458. Again, my opinion on Adobe is there's not really a generative AI moat at all, quite frankly. I don't know why people would pay a generative AI premium on this, growing at 7% year over year, if you can type up girl on a horse in any other large language model and get the same result, right? So I don't see where the next wave of growth is for Adobe. I think it's a phenomenal business. I just don't think the AI tailwind is necessarily there. And so that's why that one is down. Adobe stock year to date as well has gotten hit. Year to date, down 21%. They just haven't proved they're an AI play. And I think if you don't prove that, that's going to be a tough thing. Robinhood's going to be releasing their metrics later today. For those that are asking, later today, we're going to get the Robinhood metrics. And we'll see what numbers they put out. And again, based on how Vlad's been tweeting and how the CFO and the CBO have been talking in these different conferences, I think the main metrics are going to be good. Robinhood right here, $22.88. So Robinhood was at $22.13, bounced up real quick to $22.88 because again, $22.90 now. The market, I mean, this thing for the majority, this closed above $23.40 yesterday. The market knows what's going to happen with Robinhood. It's just, I think these downturns back down 3-4%, they're all technical algorithmic downturns. They're not really people selling off Robinhood because we know what's going to happen. So I think based on how management has been presenting themselves, the numbers should probably be good today after the bell as well. NASDAQ is green. There you go. The NASDAQ is green. Look at that. QQQ 464 on the day. Is S&P green? S&P is, look, we were down 0.62. Now we're down 0.26. S&P still at 534. Pretty incredible, dude. I mean, like if we go down to 520, I can understand it. I get people are taking profits, like totally understandable. But if we go down to 520 or 525 or 527, the dip is also there for people to buy because we know that rates are getting cut and we know that AIs have been a tailwind for earnings. And so it seems like people will buy that dip. But Bitcoin, where's Bitcoin right now as well? Where's Bitcoin? Bitcoin is 67,000. Yeah, Bitcoin's still struggling right now. We're going to need to see some more momentum there on Bitcoin. Snowflake right here, 129, and then Palantir here at 23.25 on the day. When is the list of new shorted companies released? I think that's in another week because we got it last week. They do it every 2 weeks where they release the short floats on a lot of companies. So that might take another week before we get that data. Bitcoin is oversold. The bounce will be strong. Yeah, I mean, again, if the Fed cuts or the Fed looks like they're going to cut, we're going to get a bounce on Bitcoin. It's not. I think the downturn as well is more market makers being manipulative versus Bitcoin actually being sold off. I don't think people are actually selling their Bitcoin at this level, given what they know is going to end up happening. We got Dave who has his thoughts on Roaring Kitty. Let's listen to actually what he has to say. Dave Portnoy, he loaded up a lot more of GameStop, I think at like 35 or 40. So he's holding a little bit of a bag on GameStop. Let's see what he had to say about Roaring Kitty this morning.
Roaring Kitty was half an hour late to it, and then he did it. And to me, it's a little bit underwhelming. A lot of his fans are like, no, it's Roaring Kitty. It's what he does. I really don't know what I was expecting. The stock is down, 50, 60% since he did the live stream. I think it was a tactical error. This shroud of secrecy almost with him. And he just puts a Uno card. It goes nuts. He just puts a meme. It goes nuts. Didn't really work out with the live stream. It tanked because he didn't really say anything. He did say he likes the CEO of GameStop, which is crazy. I listen, if you want to say GameStop at this point, the company's no good, right? But the fundamentals don't matter because the CEO does sell stock or do offerings or whatever the fuck he does whenever the stock rips.
Dude, it's so hilarious to watch him analyze this.
On the meme. So is he going to take that money and invest in other things in GameStop, like, I don't know, Bitcoin or stocks or whatever, and you're basically investing in an investment company? Fine, I can buy that logic. But I don't know. I didn't love the live stream. I think he would have been better off just continuing to operate in the shadows, so to speak.
Dude, it's hilarious, bro. This whole situation has been hilarious. I don't think we talked about it too much yesterday, but the live stream was kind of ridiculous in my opinion, dude. Again, he just sounded like he was scared the whole time, and he didn't really sound like he was super excited to be back in this position. I don't know what's going to happen, man. I mean, he has to get a pump to get rid of these calls. 25.06 right now on GameStop. We're going to have to see. We're really going to have to see how that happens. Just for fun, I want to look at the cash secured put premiums on GameStop. They've got to be super high, right? They've got to be ridiculously high. If I sell put, let's see this. They have to be super high. Kelly says, is this still the market open? Yes, this is still the market open. Sell put. Okay, let's do 1 month out, July 12th. Wow, dude, look at these premiums. This is insane. Oh my God. If I want to do a $20 GameStop stock, which is what? 20, let me see. $20. That is hilarious. That's 23. If I want to sell a put 23% below the strike currently, I will get paid 325 divided by 2,000. I will get paid a 16% premium to sell that put for July 12th. That's crazy, bro. Oh my goodness. And if I say, hey, well, let me do it at the money. Let's do it at $24. GameStop's at 25 right now. 620 divided by 24. Oh my God, 25% premium. Wow. That's incredible. That is incredible. Now let me show you guys a play I made. I haven't showed you guys this play. And I haven't closed it out yet, but I could close it out. I'm just waiting for. I'm just waiting to collect all the money. So I didn't tell you guys I did this, or maybe I did a while ago. But I sold 5 cash secured puts on Robinhood when it was $18 for June 28th, and my strike was $21.50. So we're up 82% on this. We've collected $1,500 so far on this, and we have another 300 to go. And I think I kind of leave it out because, I mean, I think Robinhood's above 2150 by June 28th. So what I did is, and I think this is what they call a synthetic long. I might be saying the terminology synthetic long wrong, but I sold a put that was how much higher? 21.5 minus 18 divided by 18. That was 20% higher, 19.4% higher than the strike at the time. Than the share price at the time, which means I needed the stock to pump in order for me to not lose this trade. And I was confident that by June 28th, Robinhood would be above 2150. And the reason, it's not like rocket scientist. I just thought the May numbers would be good, and I thought there would be some catalysts, and so that's why I picked it. And so this one's done really well. Now, granted, whenever you sell a cash secured put, you can't always do that because, like, this is where you have to really know the company. And so this is where, when I really start selling cash secured puts, hopefully earlier next year, I'm only going to do it on companies I know, because if I did that on like Celsius or something, the premium would have been juicy. But if I didn't know Celsius as a business, I would have been in a tough situation, right? Robinhood right here, $22.99. So you have to know the company. And because of my faith and just my knowledge of the company, I felt, okay, at $18, Robinhood will be $21.50, which is 20% higher in about a month, which is asking for a lot, but I felt like it was a reasonable ask. And as a result of that, I got paid. How much did I get paid? I think I got paid $525. Hold on, 1,900, or basically 2,000 divided by 5. I got paid $420 or something divided by 21.50. I got paid 18% premium. And again, if you sell cash secured puts, you know, like a 4% premium is golden. So we got paid an 18% premium for doing that. Robinhood right here, 2302. And this is the other thing about getting deep into a company. This is why when I start really selling cash secured puts and doing the wheel, I only want to do it on like 3 or 4 companies. Wow, Palantir 2330. Because if you understand those companies, you're not going to like get it right all the time, but at least you'll understand where you think the price is going to go. And when you're wheeling, you have to have a somewhat of a understanding on an intellectual and on a material level of where the hell the stock is going to go. And usually, you know, most people don't know that at all. But if you understand the company that deeply, I mean, you could probably understand, hey, maybe Palantir has a chance to get to 24, 25, or it's ridiculous if Palantir gets to $30 in the next week or something, right? And then you can take advantage of that by selling puts or covered calls, etc. So that is one play. I think I'm going to let it stay out. I know it's only $300 extra, but I think we just captured the extra 300 because Robinhood probably is above 2150 by then. And so we'll see. Is Schwab still down for people, bro? Is Schwab still down? I'm seeing a bunch of people on Twitter saying yes and no. Damn, dude, that's tough for Schwab to be down right when the market opens. I don't think that's happened for a long time. We haven't seen a brokerage itself down that much for a while. Apple is what, 203? Wow. Apple up 5.3%. 200. JD, hello from Germany. JD, hello. Thank you for being here today. Apple at 203. See, Adventure Theory says it's still down, and then Jeff says it's still down, and then Elaine says no, it's back up. That's wild, bro. That's wild. That's not a reason to switch to Robinhood. I don't think just because Schwab is down, you switch to Robinhood. I think that could happen with any company. It is what it is, right? It happens. It's just we haven't seen that in a long time. So I'm wondering, why is it down that much? Again, the other thing you got to remember, dude, Schwab has $9 trillion in assets. This is not a company that's allowed to go down like this. I mean, that, like, you're gonna have some angry customers. You know, if Robinhood was down, like, oh, good God, dude, if my notifications would be, I would literally be like, my head would be chopped off, dude. The day Robinhood shut down the 24-hour markets because of the Israel-Iran attack, dude, I woke up to death threats. Like, it was bad, dude. If Robinhood somehow, people were not able to log in on Robinhood today, oh, conspiracy, Vlad and Ken Griffin and this and that. So it's just like, and Robinhood's like 1/100th the size of Schwab, you know? So that should not be happening but it goes back to the technology. Maybe their technology mode is just not as good as Robinhood. Schwab is up, by my account is down. Let's look at Schwab stock. I was looking at that the other day when I was comparing it to Robinhood. Schwab stock. No, this is the wrong one. Schwab. What's the ticker for Schwab? Hold on. Let me see. Schwab stock. Their ticker is SCHW. SCHW. 72.92. I think it's had a good year. Year to date, yeah, from 59 to 72. So not bad year to date. $133 billion market cap. Dividend of 1.37%. So, and again, 9 trillion in assets. Robinhood is much younger, but I think there's a lot of momentum with Robinhood. I just bought 1,000 shares of Fastly at $7.45 for the same money back in 2019. I only got 300 shares. Will buy 5,000 more if it drops to 4 to 5 range. I like Fastly, but thoughts might be wrong. What the hell is Fastly, dude? Why are you guys excited about Fastly? Fastly 740. It's down a lot year to date. Let me look it up. Fastly company. What is this thing? Powering the best of the internet. Is this a cloud computing provider? Is it an IT services company? Fastly. Okay, what is their, where is their about? Why Fastly? Let's see. Company. Built by the, there's so much more of the Fastly than technology. At the heart of our work, we aim to improve human lives. And from the beginning, we've grown to deliberate. Okay, this is a, I'm trying to get to better understanding. Okay. So this is what they do. So they provide innovative digital solutions for cloud computing in a variety of areas: financial services, online education, e-commerce, streaming media, emerging media, digital publishing, and high tech. CDN, yeah, CDN. That's basically what they are. They have some really interesting names: New York Times, SpaceX, Stripe, Reddit, Yelp. Our platform is fully programmable. You get smarter solutions, better insight, network services, security, compute, observability. Okay, but why is this so exciting, dude? Why is this so exciting? Google says Schwab uses Snowflake. Well, there you go. To be fair, maybe Robin uses Snowflake as well. I have no idea. A lot of people use Snowflake, but we built our network with intention. By design, we run fewer POPs than our competitors, but they're much more powerful, so we can cache and serve it faster. Okay, but why is this company so exciting to people? Why is it down so much year to date? And then why is it exciting to people? Fastly, huh? 742 year to date. It's down from $25. Market cap of $1 billion. Oh, well, that's exciting. Market cap of $1 billion. I mean, let's just quickly look at their revenues. Anything below $1 billion is exciting right now because given the large caps have pumped so much, it's nice to see some smaller names. Revenue. Oh, the revenue growth sucks, dude. The revenue growth, what, 14% for a small cap? That's not that good. Net income, they're not profitable. Revenue, they're doing about $400 million a year. So they're trading at almost 2 times revenue, which is a little expensive. 134 million shares outstanding. They have 343 million in debt. And then they are free cash flow positive as of last quarter. 2 quarters ago, they were not. 2 million in free cash flow, 11 million in operating cash flow. More images, more content requires fast and more internet. Fastly cut growth expectations to only 10 to 12%. I don't see it, dude. I don't see what's the excitement in Fastly. Again, this is just me, like in the first 2 minutes of going through it, but I don't know. I got to dive deeper into the numbers. I like that it's only worth $1 billion, but it's not profitable. They don't look like they're on the path to profitability. Their net income is not necessarily getting better. Last quarter, how much did they lose? Oh, I'm not showing you guys this. Let me show you guys this. Last quarter, how much did they lose? They lost, yeah, dude. They lost 23 million in Q4, lost 43 million in Q1. It doesn't look like they're on a deaccelerating path of net income. Now, granted, it's only worth $1 billion, dude. And so if they can accelerate the revenue growth, 14% is not cutting it. But if they get closer to 20 to 25% at $1 billion market cap, they probably are very interest rate sensitive. Rates come down. This might be one of the small caps that has a catalyst, and that catalyst just might mean more compute on the internet, which leads to Fastly gaining some momentum. And if we look at the actual stock, let's look at this thing. Over the past 5 years, it's down 60%. At one point, wow, this thing was $95 at one point. Holy crap, $120 in 2020. Goodness gracious, dude. Year to date, it's down 57%. Past 6 months, it's down 57. Let's go to our boy. Let's go to our boy Path. We haven't looked at Path in a little bit. Who bought the Path dip? Path right here. Wow, 1188. So Path tried to get above $12 last quarter or yesterday, but still down. Matt says bag holders are hoping for a pump. Got out of it at 80s. Thank God. Well, that was a good exit at $80. Path also 1188. Kathy Wood did buy millions of shares of Path last week. So Path is down as well. Did I say Cache? Yes. Maybe it's called Cash or, well, yeah, it's probably CASCACHE is Cash, but I called it Cache. Yes, I called it Cache. Okay. Called it Cache. That's I'm fabulous. I got a manicure pedicure, so I say words differently now. So that's what happens. S&P 534 down only 0.19%. Robinhood 2290. Apple 203. Apple's trying to go to 204, bro. Apple's going for it. Robinhood would be above 23 right now. Freaking Bitcoin did not fall another 2%. This stupid asset that just needs to go to 100K by now. Still below 67 right here. Robinhood 2290. GameStop 2498. That's up about 0.58%. And then Apple right here, 203 on the day. Celsius still going down. Dude, Celsius is getting destroyed. Celsius down 3.3%. Again, the reason I never bought Celsius is because it just didn't taste that good. But that thesis is not the reason it's down. The reason it's down is because of the sales growth declining along with the valuation being stretched. But for me, I just never liked it because of the taste. Now, granted, maybe my intuition was right here because the caffeine is too much. And maybe the taste to me, I was tasting too much caffeine. And that's why I stayed away from it. But if the growth slows down, dude, this thing takes a hit. And you guys got to remember, it's up like 4,000x from the lows in 2020. So it's like people have made money in this stock. Now people are trying to make more money. And it's hard to make more money when the thing is already pumped as much as it's pumped. I pay in Cache. Yeah, look, June got the proper E on the Cache. I love the daily shit on Kathy segment. We're not shitting on Kathy. We're not shitting on Kathy. I respect Kathy a lot. We're just saying, look, she bought 1 million shares of Path, and at the end of the day, she's got to be right about Path. And the only reason I'm skeptical here is because she's wrong on Teladoc and Zoom, and she's starting to sell aggressively on both those names. And she bought the dip on both those names aggressively a couple years ago. So we're going to have to see what happens with Path. Again, my research on Path, robotic processing automation is not interesting. And it's especially not interesting when they lower their growth guidance. I'd rather just buy more Palantir because the ontology ends up doing whatever RPA says it wants to do. And although Path will attack more small businesses, it's not the most, it's not the game changer to bet on. The only reason it's exciting is because they have $2 billion in cash and they fell 50%. And so on a bounce, it looks exciting, but as an actual investment, I have yet to see a meaningful reason why RPA is so sophisticated that it's going to change the AI data landscape over the next decade. And that's why it's tough. Matt says, everyone's saying Celsius is a fad and is done. Genuinely has no idea what they're talking about. The stock was overvalued, but they're still growing like crazy. Yeah, I don't think it's a fad, and I don't think it's done growing. The problem is a lot of people got into that sucker from 65 to 90. And like, that's not a problem with Celsius. That's a problem with the market, right? People tend to get in really high because that's when the story is clear. And when the story is clear, that's when everyone buys, but that's when a lot of the alpha is gone. So the problem is if that thing doesn't grow the way it was growing the past 2 quarters, there's going to be a lot of people that are just going to have to DCA deeper into Celsius. I don't think it's a fad, though. I do think people are drinking Celsius a lot. I'm not one of those people, but the girls that want to like look cute at the gym with their Celsius in their hand, those girls are drinking a ton of it, which I guess is a big market that's going to continue to expand. But the growth just might not be as strong as the market thought it was going to be. What else do we got? Bend is halted. What is Bend? Where do you guys come up with these stocks? Bend? Is this thing up like 1,000% as well? What is Bend? Bendingo and Alalde Bank. This is OTC. Dude, where do you guys find some of these names? I'm like looking at Apple. I'm looking at Amazon. You guys, what about Bend? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what Bend is. Bend 186, or not Bend 186. Apple is at 186. I have no idea what Bend is. I'll try to look into it. It looks like a Chinese company as soon as I pull this out. Market cap's $4 billion. But yeah, I'm not sure about that one. That one is OTC. Amazon 186. Where's Nvidia? Is Nvidia getting some momentum today? Nvidia down on the day 120. The fact that Nvidia is even 120 is kind of insane. But Nvidia is at 120. Look at the 1 year chart for ANF. Dude, the ANF chart is incredible. So for anyone wondering why Abercrombie is up as much as it's up, their operating margins are up 700%. And that's the answer. Now, why and how did they get the operating margins to be up 700%? I have no idea. And that's why I am not up 429% in the past year. Because if I knew in June of 2023 at $36 that Abercrombie was somehow going to increase operating margins and get people to buy their clothes for a lot higher than what they're procuring their clothes from Bangladesh and from China and everywhere else they get their clothes, then I would have bought some Abercrombie. But for the people that knew, they've done very well. I mean, look at this thing, dude. $39 to $182. Year to date, it's up 100%. And the market cap is only $9 billion. It's not like this is a really, really, really big company. It's just one of the, like in the past 5 years, it's 10x'd, bro. Just insane. Just insane. So this is where social arbitrage and social trends are so important. Because if you looked at like Google trends around Abercrombie, or you went to a local Abercrombie and you saw the foot traffic, you could probably have come up with somewhat of a thesis that, hey, and then you looked at their financials and you're like, well, actually the company's like every quarter they're compounding their operating margins. Maybe there's something exciting here. And there you go. That would have been the next big winner. But their brand presence has grown higher, and that's why they're excited. Why is PayPal down? I don't know. PayPal had some conference last week, and the CEO said a lot of good stuff, which is why I pumped. They have another conference coming up. Why it's down? It's probably down because of this video. I don't know if you guys saw this. Let me pull this up. It's probably down because of this thing right here. So it's down because of Apple. Look at this. So do you see these two iPhones sending money to each other just by touching? That guy's sending $20. Look at that animation. That's actually really cool. And then that person got $20. Boom. So it's Apple Pay, but it's like AI Apple Pay. That's a pretty cool feature, dude. I mean, it's pretty damn cool. So maybe the market's just like, you know what? PayPal is not going to compete with this. Now, granted, I don't think PayPal needs to compete with this. I don't think this is going to kill PayPal, but that may be the reason why PayPal is down right now. So that's what you're seeing on here. Cash App with special effects. Yeah, pretty much. Uranium stocks are dipping today. I'm bullish on uranium. Might be a good entry point for someone not in already. Just saying. June, can you put some tickers on uranium stocks? We can make a little list of them right now and see what uranium stocks you're looking at. Let's make a list right here. Uranium. Okay, Bitcoin miners are down, CleanSpark's down, Robin at 2276. Again, Bitcoin keeps falling. It's trying to go below 66,000. You know what Bitcoin needs, guys? Bitcoin needs a manicure and pedicure. I'll cover the cost, dude. I'll cover it. But Bitcoin needs a manicure and pedicure because I got one yesterday and I feel great. I'm not going to lie, dude. My feet, like, they look scrumptious. Okay. Like, I have never seen my feet look as good as they look. But they look incredible. And maybe if Bitcoin got a manicure and pedicure, it would have a little bit of a better day. CCJ, okay, Camco, and then URA. That's the uranium ETF. Okay, cool. So now we're going to look at these two. Year to date, CCJ is down a bit. Over the past month, it's down. Over the past 5 years, it's up. And I would imagine, yeah, over the past year, wow, uranium's done well. Uranium's 5x in 5 years. Huh. Looks like we're building more nukes. But anyway, Bitcoin does need a manicure and pedicure. Because I'm telling you, like, I just don't feel it's ethical for me to show my feet pictures without getting paid. Because just like Elon, you know, it's not ethical for him to build Tesla and not get paid. I personally believe that because he's done such a good job. I believe given how good my feet look, it's not ethical for me to not at least charge $1 from everybody who gets to see the picture. Okay. it's worth at least $1. So I just don't think it's ethical for me to show the picture, but they're pretty damn, they're cute, bro. I have cute ass feet. I mean, and like I've never seen my feet look like this, dude. I've never seen my nails look as good as they are. Member only stream. Oh my god, should I post it on the members only? That's hilarious. That's so funny. That's hilarious, dude. That's a different platform. Yeah, that's a different platform. No, but on some real shit, dude, like manicures and pedicures are the shit. Oh, look at the Bitcoin. Wow, right when I said get him, look at that green candle. Did I not talk about manicure and pedicure on Bitcoin for the past 2 minutes? And boom, we get a green candle. This is what I'm saying. This is all. Sometimes, next time I'm having a really bad day, I'm just gonna get a manicure pedicure. That's it. That's it. Trying to recover California, dude. I spent so much money. Look, I'm about to look at my Chase thing right now. I'll show you my credit card balance right now. I have spent in the past basically 2 weeks. Remember, I had a wedding. I had AIP $3,426.45. That's a lot of money, bro. That's a lot of. We had food, we had Ubers, we had Airbnbs, we had this, we had that. I just paid for the fucking wedding I was at. I had to pay for the dude. Okay, I didn't know. Apparently, you can check in early to a hotel. I didn't know this. So I texted my boy Iliano. Oh, by the way, did you guys see this picture? I don't think I showed you guys this yesterday. Hold on, let me charge my Mac. My Mac is about to die. Let's get the charger. Where's the charger? Hold on. Oh, here it is. Here it is. Okay. Okay, so I texted my boy Iliano when I was stuck at the airport, and I was just like, I was stuck at Newark Airport, right? Because I had my flight at 6, but I got there at 12. So for 5 hours, I was stuck in Newark Airport. And then I tweeted that I was in Virginia, that I was going to Virginia. Now he didn't know that I was going to Virginia. But I tweeted a tweet and he saw it and he texted me. He's like, yo, why are you going to Virginia? And I was like, I have this wedding to go to. And I was like, but the hotel doesn't allow me to check in until 4 p.m. So I'm going to be stuck in Virginia in the airport for how long? For basically like 10 hours. Right. So this is what I said. This is the tweet that he looked at. I said, and the tweet, the TLDR of this tweet is I saw 2 Indians running a Dunkin' Donut. They were the only restaurant that was open in Newark Airport. And I was like, how long have you guys been open? And they're like, or I was like, when do you guys close? And they said, we work 24/7. And I was like, damn, like this is why Indians in America are succeeding, because these guys know that if they shut down, they would not get the excess business that they could get if they stay open. And so I definitely gave them a tip. And my dad had the same story, right? He did the same with his liquor store for 20 years, 8 a.m. he opened, 11 p.m. closed, 6 days a week. Didn't take any vacations. It's just like, this is what you got to do to get to the American dream. So I was there. I tweeted this. I said, I'm going to fly to Virginia. And then he's like, why are you going to Virginia? I was like, I have this wedding, but I'll stay at the airport for 10 hours. And he was like, dude, why would you stay at the airport for 10 hours? Why don't you just check in early? And I was like, what do you mean check in early? That's a thing? He was like, yeah, you can just go to the hotel and just like ask to check in early. Bitcoin right now above 67,000. And I was like, I'm so happy he texted me that, because I was ready to stay at Dulles Airport from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. waiting for the 4 p.m. check-in. Because, and you know why? You know why I felt like this? Because my Airbnb checked in at 3 p.m. in California. And I texted the Airbnb host and I was like, yo, I'm here at like 8 a.m. Do you guys mind if I just like check in early? And she was like, no. She was like, you're not allowed to check in. And she was kind of mean. I was like, damn, bro. So I stayed in SFO for literally like 8 hours because I couldn't check into my Airbnb. So I was like, oh, well, the hotel is going to be as mean, if not meaner, than the Airbnb host, because it's like a hotel. It's more like sophisticated. But apparently, no, you can check in early. Now, granted, I had to pay $30 to check in early. But I was so damn tired. I had not slept in 24 hours. I was like, dude, take my money. And then I knocked out when I got to the hotel. Gail says, dude, if nothing works out, get a card that has priority lounge access and stay there for however you want with free food and drinks and Wi-Fi. Yeah, that's another thing I could have done as well. You can call them to see if your room is ready. I did call them and they said your room might not be ready. So I was a little worried about that. But once I got there, they said the room was ready. But I did have to pay $30. Now, the reason I bring this up is because as I'm looking through my expenses on the credit card, that's another thing I had to pay for, another $30 on top of everything else. So basically, we spent a lot of money. We spent a lot of money last week. But I'm really happy Iliano texted me. It's all because I had this tweet about these Indian guys at Dunkin' Donuts, and I mentioned Virginia. If I didn't mention Virginia here, he wouldn't have seen that. He wouldn't have texted me. And then if he didn't text me, I wouldn't have known. I could check in early, dude, because I wasn't ready to call the hotel. I was just going to stay at the fucking airport. And then I got to the airport and I looked around at the airport. The Dulles airport it's an okay airport. It's not an amazing airport, but having to stay there for 10 hours would have been like literal hell after not sleeping for 24 hours. So that would have sucked. And then this is Iliano. So I told you guys, this guy recognized me yesterday or at the wedding. I think I told you guys this yesterday. So he saw me at the wedding and he was like, yo, are you Amit? I was literally going to take a piss. And he's like, yo, Amit, Palantir? And I thought I had escaped Palantir after a week of just like being entrenched in Palantir, but I did not escape it because someone recognized me at the wedding. And then this is Iliano for those that don't know. Also, I saw this picture. So I saw this picture at the wedding. This RSI was on this like thing. I was like, oh my God, stock market. I can't. I need the stock market. So this is Iliano. This is the guy who runs the government affairs, strategic partnerships at Palantir. He's the guy who got me to the first DC conference. By the way, the Palantir merch store is going to be launching in a week. He's also responsible for the merch store. So it's going to be super fun when we see the merch. But he picked me up when I was at the wedding. There was like a 4-hour break between the wedding and the reception. And he took me out to just get some coffee. And so I walked in with this Indian ass outfit. and he walked in with a Palantir bucket hat. And we asked this girl to take a picture of us. And it was kind of hilarious. Now, granted, that girl was kind of cute. I should have asked for her number. I was like, "Excuse me, can you take this picture of us?" And she was just like, okay. I feel like that would have been the perfect opportunity. By the way, you look cute. Can I get your number? And we maybe it would have worked out. But she was super cute. She took the picture of us. She was nice. I looked ridiculous, so she probably was like, "Who the fuck is this Indian dude in this Indian outfit with Adidas slippers, dude?" My mom gave me sneakers. She gave me like specific Indian shoes, but I didn't feel like wearing specific Indian shoes. I was like, fuck it. My feet are tired. It's been a long week. So I just wore Adidas slippers with the Indian outfit and we went to get some coffee. And that's what happened at the wedding. That is a cool hat, right? Yeah. It's a cool bucket hat as well. But that's what, tell her you are an Indian prince. Dude, she seemed so confused. She was like, why am I taking this picture? I also told her, I was like, you're a girl. You should be like good at taking pictures, right? Girls are good at taking pictures. And she was like, I don't know about that. But like, that's what everyone tells me. It's like that girls know how to take pictures over guys. Because whenever I take a picture of someone, they're like, wow, the angle's not right. I'm like, all right, well, if you're a girl, then you should know how to take pictures. But yeah, she got some good pictures of us. And it was good. Good at getting pictures taken. Yeah, 100%, dude. Good at getting pictures taken. Like my sister does that all the time, dude. I take pictures of her and she's like, it's a bad picture. I'm like, yo, maybe you just don't like how you look or something. Because like I don't understand how I'm taking a bad picture. I have no idea how this picture is bad. This is like I'm up, I'm at the right angle. Like it's a good picture. I feel like there's something else going on here around the pictures. GameStop up 1%, Apple up 4.9%, 202. But yeah, she did not like, she took a good picture, but most girls, I guess, don't like when guys take their pictures. The drip is so bad that it was good. Dude, actually there was a part of the outfit I was missing because I forgot to wear it. It was in my bag. It was like a vest on top of what's called a kurta. And I texted my mom a picture and she got so mad. She's like, why aren't you wearing the vest? And I was like, there's a vest that goes with this? She got so pissed off. She's like, I bought you a vest for a reason. I was like, well, oh well. Who cares? It is what it is. Palantir's pumping. Are we getting the Palantir pump? Are we getting the Amit Talks Palantir pump thing happening? Because that's what happened last time. I think I was talking for like 25 minutes and Palantir went from like, what is it, 2050 to like 2170. It was pretty epic. I just kept talking and it kept going up. I think Palantir likes my stories. But anyway, that guy, Iliano, he works at Palantir. So he picked me up. He scooted me from the wedding. And we got to talk about AIPCon and got to like rehash everything that happened at AIPCon. And he has a lot of plans in the future for different events coming up. So I think you guys will see a lot more of him and see what he's able to do. 2341, not bad. 2341. We got a nice little green candle right there. We were at 2344. Is Snowflake up? Is it just pumping with SAS? Snowflake 128. Snowflake's up 1%. Palantir's up basically the same. CRM Wow, Salesforce is red. Palantir and Snowflake are up. Interesting. Interesting. So Palantir is actually green, even though Salesforce is down. Wish I could log into Thinkorswim so I could see my damn options. Dude, is it still down, Thinkorswim and Schwab? That is pretty insane. That is kind of ridiculous, right? Yeah, look at this. 190 responses from me. A lot of people saying it's down. Schwab is responding to my tweet. Damn. Schwab ends up responding. Look at this. Was Schwab supposed to be better? LOL, I'm not able to log in. Hello, we are aware that some clients may be experiencing issues logging in. Our teams are working to resolve. We apologize for the inconvenience. All right, so Schwab, I'm just curious why this is happening for Schwab. Like, what happened for them to have this issue? Schwab is up for me now. Okay, so some people it's working for now. That's weird. Palantir 2340, Robinhood 2294, 2295 now. AMC's up 7%, Tesla 169, Enphase 128, Micron 134. So wow, dude, SoFi below 7. Dude, why is this thing like the volume? Who owns SoFi? Put in the chat. Put in the chat right now if you have SoFi shares. Like, put in the chat if you have a decent position in SoFi. I'm curious. I'm very curious. Put in the chat if you have SoFi. This is just getting ridiculous, bro. 694. It pumped over 7 in the morning, and then it's just getting right back down there. It's just so weird. I'm like, at this point, forget all the bear cases. This thing is stuck in a range, and it's like, it feels like it's being manipulated. Like, forget the bear case. The bear case is the bear case. But, and there's obviously a bull case as well, but now it just feels like it gets hit every time it gets a little bit of momentum. It just gets hit back down. And the short float, I think, is still close to 20%. Lyft right now down about 1.86. SoFi 694. I own SoFi, bro. Don't remind me. I'm down 250K. Damn. I mean, look, at the end of the day, I don't think the company's going bankrupt. So the idea that SoFi is not going to recover back to like $10 over the next few years, I'm pretty sure it will. Hell, I think SoFi gets to $10 by the end of the year if things go well. The problem is now, if it pumps to $8, I think everyone's going to sell because they're so annoyed by the price action. And they're going to use that as liquidity to get the hell out of the stock, which is going to create selling pressure. And then the thing falls back. So it's like, it's in a tough position where if management can't make a real catalyst or change the narrative, then it's just stuck in a tough situation. I'm still at 40% gain on SoFi, but no idea why I'm holding. Yeah, and the premiums suck. I mean, let's look at the premiums right now in SoFi as well. Let's see if they've got any better. SoFi, let's look at the premiums. So if we trade options on SoFi, if I sell a put 1 month out, sell put, yeah, dude, this is nothing, bro. They're giving you 15 cents for $650. I mean, what's that? That's like what, 1%? Less than 1%? 15 divided by 650. Oh, no, that's 2.3%. Okay, so you're getting 2.3 on that. And then if you get $6, they're giving you $5 for 600, which is also not that exciting. This is a month out. Yeah, it's 0.83%. At least at 7, you're getting $36. Which is not crazy. It's just it's struggled to maintain 7, you know? That's what, 36 divided by 700. That's 5.1%. Yeah, so at least that return's not bad. It's just a question of if it can stay above 7. Now, granted, if you sell puts on SoFi at 7, you should like owning it at 7. It's not horrible. But below that has been bad. All right. Well, yeah, I guess Noto's got to figure his shit out, dude. He's got to make the narrative different. He just has to. And again, I think the biggest problem with the content I'm seeing about SoFi online is that everyone keeps saying, well, they're growing so much and they're innovating in all these different categories. But if the core product is not something people like using, Apple right here at 203, which is the brokerage, it's just hard for them to upsell everything else. So We will see. We'll see what happens. Oh, Nubank. What about Nubank? Nubank should be doing good as well. Nubank, 11.59. Yeah, Nubank's up a lot from October last year, so Nubank's doing okay. PayPal now back at 65. Nvidia 120. Amazon 185. Bitcoin. Wow, Bitcoin below 67 again. What is going on, dude? Who is selling their Bitcoin? Why are people selling Bitcoin? Can they just hold it? Like, what is the issue? I think anyone selling Bitcoin needs a manicure and pedicure. It needs to fucking relax, dude. Like, why are you selling this thing? Just chill out, bro. Just chill out. Like, let it pump. Everyone wants to get rid of it at 70,000. Now, granted, I'm saying this as someone who has no Bitcoin, but still, like, goodness, let the damn thing pump. Let it do its thing. I'm worrying so much. Easy fixes on SoFi issues. I agree. These are relatively easy things to fix. But they just haven't fixed it, you know? And again, they have to switch the product interface as well. I mean, or like fix it, meaning create a brand new experience, which is not easy, but it's doable. They just haven't done it, which is the issue. Who told you to start getting mani-pedis? Honestly, it was all these people in California that I talked to. They were like, hey, did you get a mani? No, I'm just kidding. I don't know, dude. I really woke up randomly yesterday and I just felt like I need to like have feet that like are monetizable. And as a result, I increased my AUM, my asset value, and my feet got prettier. That's what I did. Meet Kevin is short on Bitcoin. Yeah, I'm confused. Has he put out a thesis for why he's short on Bitcoin? Did he put out a video or something? Because that's surprising to me that he's short on Bitcoin right now. He's either doing it as a trade or he's like legit short on Bitcoin. Yeah, he hasn't put out a video on it. He hasn't said anything about short Bitcoin. That's weird, dude. But I didn't expect him to go short Bitcoin right now. It's just technical short terms. That's what I feel. Maybe it's a trade for him. Maybe it's a trade. He did buy Snowflake. He bought Robinhood as well. He already has 60,000 shares of Palantir. He hasn't sold any Palantir and he bought any Palantir. And then Apple here at 204 on the day. Snowflake pumping as well, 128 right now, 1.15%. GoDaddy's down 2%. GoDaddy getting to the S&P was surprising, dude. I did not. Look at the volume on GoDaddy is 300,000 shares. That's like nothing. That's like the amount that Robinhood gets in overnight markets. Like, dude, like that's like you're talking about a stock that's like just not that exciting. GoDaddy gets into the most 500 important companies on planet Earth. GoDaddy. Deep tissue massage next. I did get a deep tissue massage 2 months ago because I had some really bad issues in my neck, and so my mom had like this Groupon code, and I got it done, and it was good. It wasn't bad. But I've never gotten a manicure and pedicure, so that was the first thing for yesterday. GoDaddy was 95% institutionally owned. See, and I get it, but it's like, is that really what they care about? That the Toots own it that much? And like, obviously the answer is yes to that, but it's just incredible that the S&P committee really gives that much of a you know what about institutional ownership. I didn't expect them to care that much, but they care. CrowdStrike is up. SMLR is up 3%. SoFi still down. Dell is flat on the day. Elf. Oh, wow. Elf recovering a little bit, up 2%. HIMS 2160. And then IWM, that's getting hit. Market's uncertain about if that rate cut's coming. Market is uncertain if that rate cut is coming. GoDaddy sounds so explicit. Yeah, dude. Like, their name has always interested me my entire life, dude. Like, as I was going through puberty, I realized daddy has a totally different connotation than father. And, you know, GoDaddy was a company that was around while I was going through puberty, because back in 2012, 13, whatever, GoDaddy was a household name. This was before Squarespace really took off and Wix took off. GoDaddy was like the domain hosting. I think I even bought a couple of domain names on GoDaddy, dude. Like, just like as a kid, you know? Oh, we got Apple. We got Amit back on CNBC. We're going to listen to Amit talk about Apple. But the point is, like, they never played into their marketing around GoDaddy, right? They never said, hey, GoDaddy. Like, they never did, like, They never did sexual advertising. And I don't know. I've kind of felt like it's a missed opportunity. Or maybe they haven't. I don't know. But I feel like that name with Daddy. Why is it called GoDaddy, by the way? Why is it called GoDaddy? There's a PayPal conference today. What? There's a PayPal conference going on? When is that happening? That's happening at 12? Okay, put in the chat. Do you guys actually want to listen to that? Dude, I feel like it's going to be so boring, bro. A PayPal conference. Okay, put in the chat. Let's hear Amit talk about Apple. But let's see. They did have sexual advertising. Okay, so we're gonna listen to Amit talk about Apple, and then I'm gonna go on YouTube and try to see some of their sexual advertising in the past, and we'll try to find that and watch that. Okay, here is what I'll look like in 40 years on Apple.
Daryanani, Evercore Senior Managing Director, covers IT hardware. Joining us this morning is Amit Daryanani, Evercore Senior Managing Director, covers IT hardware and communications equipment, has an outperform on Apple and a target of 220. Amit, it's great to have you back. Thoughts on yesterday? And I guess, are you impressed by the reaction of the stock, which typically doesn't do well on DC days?
Yeah, certainly impressed by the stock reaction to your point, right? I think two things that really stood out yesterday, I'd say. One is this you called Apple Intelligence that they launched, right? There's a lot of stuff they're going to do, like summarizing emails, messages, prioritizing things. But the biggest thing really was Siri may eventually become what they told us it would be, 10, 12 years ago when they initially launched it, right? Which is really using Apple's own LLMs on device, which is great for security, and then partner with ChatGPT for some of the workloads. Now, if Siri can truly do what it's supposed to do, the way they have kind of envisioned it, and the second part I would say is these Apple Intelligence will only work with iPhone 15 Pro models with the A17 chip. That simplistically could trigger a sizable upgrade.
Breaking: Hunter Biden was just found guilty. Okay, we'll listen to this and then we'll talk about the Hunter Biden thing. That's pretty big news. We'll talk about that in a second. We'll just let him finish.
Cycle, provided the features that come out with this are attractive enough for the user base. So I think that's one opportunity that's really big. The second one I would say is, the partnership with ChatGPT seems very open-ended, which means there's a potential for Apple to monetize Safari the way they did with search in the AI world as well, by potentially having a default option down the road.
A lot of charts going around, Amit, about what generation of iPhone is currently held by the installed base, whether or not that would drive this craving to upgrade to the 15. What's your bull case doing right now on iPhone revenue for fiscal 25 or 26?
Yeah, by the way, so this will only work with iPhone 15 Pro, not even the other 15 models that are out there. So our estimate, only 5% of the users right now can probably use Apple Intelligence with the device that they have. Now, if you look at Apple's install base, this is the way we kind of look at it. Next to the Street's modeling 6% revenue growth, for every month of the replacement cycle that you can shrink, which is about 41 months right now, you can add about $6-7 billion of revenues, about 2 points of growth. Historically, in a super cycle, you shrink it by about 4 months, which means that 6% revenue growth the Street has could look like 13-14%. The EPS number could look closer to $9 versus $7 that the Street's at. On a 30 multiple, which is what the stock typically trades at, the bull case on this would be 270, 280 in our opinion right now.
You say that this is a uniquely Apple approach to AI, and I just wonder what you mean there, because everybody's pitching this, right? Personalized Gen AI features based on the data that they have on customers. So what makes this uniquely Apple?
Two things I think that make it uniquely Apple. One is they're going to do it in a very, very secure manner. We could debate if others are going to do it the same way or not. The second is it actually has a lot of your personal information, right? So when Siri becomes context aware and, you tell Siri, hey, send pictures of the party last night to my spouse, it knows exactly who to send it to. It knows what pictures to send it to. Others potentially can't do that very well, right? So Siri literally becomes that personal assistant that they talked about, and it has your data, and it can do it in a very secure manner on device. I think those are the two things that Apple will do that's very unique to them.
Siri, text my side chick good morning and text my main chick I love you. If Siri can do that, then we've got something good going on with Siri. All right, let's get some updates on this Hunter Biden thing. Here we go.
They concluding the jury that is yes. Number two, did you lie on the form with respect to your addiction? The jury concluding yes. And number three, as it relates to not only the lie and everything else, but the illegality of possession, they said yes. I did think, Wolf, if ever there was a case regarding jury nullification, that this would be it. What I mean is there are times when a jury may assess a case, and because the case hits home with them, we know this was a jury that consisted of people who had experience, family members and others, to the issue of addiction, to the issue of alcoholism, right? Not specifically related to this case here, but of course, just knowing what it does to people and how it makes people act and how it alters behavior. Remember, critical to the defense was really talking about the issue of whether he was addicted at the time, talking about whether he was in denial with regard to having the mental state required to knowingly execute a form falsely. And so I did think perhaps if there was a case that would require, right, jury nullification, a jury saying he's guilty, but we're going to give him a pass, this may be the case. The jury did not do that. The other thing, Wolf, that's important is I think it's a very much a timing issue now. We heard Paula Reed speak to the issue, of a potential commutation. What does that mean? We know the president has ruled out a pardon, excusing it completely. The issue with commutation is if there is a sentence imposed, then would the president, now president, consider, right, excusing that sentence? And the timing I speak to is as follows. Right now, upon a conviction, it now goes to probation. Probation assesses, it's called pretrial services at the federal level. What they do is we see the first family, or at least his wife, that is Joe Biden's and, Hunter Biden's, and of course his mom walking out of the courtroom. At pretrial services, what they do is they prepare a probation report, deep dive into Hunter Biden, his prior history, what it is that he's done in his life. They make a recommendation, probation, on sentencing. Defense counsel submits documentation of what the appropriate sentence should be, including letters of recommendation. The prosecutors do it. The judge then pronounces sentence. That's a few months away. So let's just say, for example, Wolf, that he gets sentenced in October, September, and then is given a date to report if, right, because we know that this is a case where he doesn't have to go to prison, but if he's sentenced to prison, that's timing. Last and final point, Wolf, we know he's facing the tax charges, of course, in September in California. That will be critical to timing. Also, if Joe Biden wins the presidency, and of course, we're talking about a lot of assumptions, his son is convicted of that, then you face the similar timing questions. Will he pardon on that case? Will he commute on that case? So if the judge puts sentencing over, if there's a conviction, right? Again, speculating at this point, if it's after the time that Joe Biden, would potentially, if he does not get reelected, leave office, I'm looking for all of those things to see whether or not the current president, would have the ability to issue a commutation or a pardon with respect to the other case. He gets reelected, nothing to see here. He doesn't, it's a problem, and that's why the timing component is critical.
If Joe Biden pardons his son, I think people are not going to be happy about that.
Very critical indeed. And we were showing our viewers live pictures of Hunter Biden leaving the court and getting into a vehicle and leaving the area. So clearly he's not being detained right now, awaiting sentencing. Paula Reed is still with us. Joey, I'm going to get back to you. Got some legal questions, but Paula, I know you're getting more information. What are you learning?
That's right. Again, this flow of information coming from our reporters inside the courthouse. We've learned that right now, Hunter Biden does not have a specific sentencing date set. Now, usually sentencing happens about 120 days after a verdict. So it appears that depending on the timing of his Los Angeles trial, this sentencing date would likely come before the November election. Now, as I said before, the president has said he would not pardon his son. He will respect the outcome of this process. He would technically have the option to commute his son's sentence, depending on what it is. But at this point, he said he would not offer a pardon, though I don't think he was asked specifically about commutations. But as of now, no sentencing date for the president's son, while the upper range for sentences for this particular kind of crime, someone could face decades in prison. As I said before, sentencing is more of an art than it is a science. He is a first-time offender, and it is not expected that he would face anywhere near that amount of prison time. As you can probably hear behind me, there is at least one protester who has been here all day, questionable about whether he should be shouting outside a federal courthouse when there was a jury deliberating earlier, but he has been here. But we only see, again, about one protester here. Otherwise, it's a pretty calm scene. The First Lady, Hunter Biden, his attorneys just left the courthouse, and it looks like they will not be back here for at least another 120 days.
Paula, you're our chief legal affairs correspondent. So walk us through. The president of the United States says he won't pardon his son. He'll abide by whatever the verdict is. But there was no question to him about commuting the sentence. In other words, if, let's say he gets a few years potentially in jail, the president could commute it, reduce that sentence.
Dude, could Hunter Biden actually get a few years in jail for this? This is the gun charge. I don't know all the details about this. I thought this was going to be like a fine if he gets guilty. I didn't think he was actually going to get jail time. So a commutation means if he gets 5 years in jail, Biden could potentially make it 6 months if he wants to. I don't think that would go well with half the country. They would feel that's a bit unfair, but that's interesting. I didn't actually think this could result in jail. Apparently it can.
That would be his right as a president of the United States, right? It's a federal trial.
Yes, exactly. It's a federal trial. So state level offenses, convictions, and sentences are outside the power of the president of the United States. That's part of why former President Trump's conviction in New York was especially significant, because it is outside the pardon power, either his future pardon power or that of any other president. But yes, with this case, President Biden would have the option to pardon his son. He said he won't do that. Commuting his sentence would also be an option on the table, and certainly a historic decision for the president of the United States to decide if they want to use that power.
Okay, what do you guys think? Put it in the chat. If he gets, let's say, 5 years in jail and Biden commutes the sentence to 1 year in jail, right? So he still has to do jail time, but it's less than what the federal judge assigns, which if you are any citizen in the United States and Biden doesn't commute your sentence, you will have to do the jail time that you are assigned based on the crime that the judge thinks. That's the law of the land in a democratic republic that is the United States. If Biden does that, which is not a pardon, but it's a commutation, what do you think the reaction is from both sides, Democrats and Republicans? How would you guys consider it goes down?
To absolve their child of whatever sentence that Hunter Biden ultimately receives. But at this point, it's unclear what sentence he will get. And this is only the first of 2 federal cases he will be facing. The next one again in September, that is related to tax charges. That is going to.
He has another one? Is this how you guys know I'm not that up to date on politics? He has another. I thought only Trump had more trials. Hunter Biden has another one? Taxes now? Goodness gracious. This guy, I did not know he has this much. I did not know.
Go on much longer. It'll be closer to 4 to 6 weeks, and likely that sentence will not come probably if he is convicted until the following year. So again, it's going to be a difficult year for the Biden family going forward, given Hunter Biden's continued legal problems in the wake of this conviction. Now, as you might be able to hear, there is some sort of confrontation happening here. So I'm going to toss it back to you, Wolf.
All right, Paula, stand by. We'll get back to you as well. Excellent reporting from our Paula Reed, our chief legal affairs correspondent. Thank you very much. Kristen Holmes is joining us right now. Kristen, I know you're covering the Trump campaign. You getting reaction?
Yeah, so we did get a statement from the campaign, which was then retracted because Donald Trump himself, we are told, is going to weigh in on Truth Social. So something that we are going to be watching very carefully here. Obviously, no one at the campaign wants to get ahead of the former president himself, since he likes to weigh in. Now, one thing I will note is that this verdict is likely to take some of the wind out of their sails when it comes to talking about the Justice Department in general and how it is rigged, how Donald Trump's case itself was political persecution, particularly now that Hunter Biden was found guilty. Now, that's not going to change anything that Donald Trump is likely to say. He will say that he was never going to get a fair trial and that Hunter Biden should have been charged with more crimes, et cetera, et cetera. This is just how Donald Trump paints almost everything, as though he is the victim. But, of course, we will wait ourselves to see what exactly Donald Trump says and weigh in. Now, I will say one thing that is very interesting here. While Donald Trump has not seemed sympathetic at all about Hunter Biden's addiction issues, he himself has come from a family that had addiction issues and has talked openly about it. So interesting there that he has. One of the things we've talked about is how many Americans find this case to be sympathetic in some ways. Donald Trump himself does not seem to be one of them.
Important point as well. Kristen, thank you very much. Sure, Michael Singleton is with us as well. Kate Bedingfield is with us What's your reaction?
Wolf, I think this case has some very serious constitutional issues here. I mean, in 2023, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, and Paula read the quote, anyone who is, quote, an unlawful user of or addicted to any controlled substance cannot legally possess a firearm. The Fifth Circuit said, quote, you cannot ban a gun possession for a person who has a pattern of drug use. And they based off of the 2022 decision from the Supreme Court, which said gun restrictions must be consistent with the nation's historical tradition of firearm regulation. And so I think Hunter Biden's attorneys are going to have a very solid case, and Tim could jump in on this, on appeals, because the Supreme Court made it very clear that you have to look at historical context before making these types of decisions. And so I think the question for many Americans will be, someone who's dealt with addiction, should they not have the ability to protect themselves? And I think most people...
Wait, so his argument is because Hunter Biden was addicted to substances, he's allowed to have these guns? Is that his argument? That is really? That okay. All right.
Will probably say yes. And here we are years later, Hunter is still dealing with those things, but from our knowledge, he's not addicted anymore in terms of being an active user. So should he not be able to protect himself, being the first child of the president of the United States?
Oh, they're saying if you were addicted, you're not allowed to have weapons. So this guy's saying, well, he's not addicted anymore, therefore he should have the same rights as other people in terms of having the weapons. That's his argument.
Our politics may differ here, Wolf, but constitutionally, he should be able to keep and bear arms.
Well, I think hearing this argument from Shermichael is further evidence that the politics of this are not going to be clean for Donald Trump and for the Republicans, in part because you have conservative folks who are advocating for gun ownership, who are saying that the substance of this case, as many legal experts have said, is thin. But also you have somebody here who has been very vocal and eloquent about his struggles with addiction in Hunter. And I can tell you from the campaign in 2020 that, moments where Joe Biden defended his son from attacks by Donald Trump about his addiction and things that he had done while he was under the influence. Joe Biden would look at the camera and say, I love my son. And everybody in this country can relate to having somebody in their family that they love struggling with addiction and the challenge that puts your family through. And I'll tell you, those were the things that people remembered from the debates in 2020, where Joe Biden, it was Joe Biden making that argument. So, the idea, and then add on to that, the point that was just made earlier, that this really undermines the argument that Trump's been making about Joe Biden weaponizing the justice system. So, I think the politics of this are not going to be as beneficial to Trump and the Republicans. And maybe that's why the Trump campaign's struggling to get a statement out, because they're not quite sure what to say.
What do you think?
Let's go to Fox News and see what they have to say.
An application to purchase a firearm, and one was possession of a firearm while you are either an unlawful user of a controlled substance or an addict. And, Harris, we're not talking about Valium or lorazepam or Ativan, all of which could be legal. There are no legal users of cocaine base or crack cocaine. No one legally uses that. So this was a really easy case from a factual standpoint. If you can get past jury nullification, which the prosecutors did, if you like cliffhangers, you're not going to like this case, and you're not going to like the one coming, because you either paid your taxes on time or you did not.
Oh, yeah.
There's not a lot of nuance to those facts.
But just quick thought, because it was something that was on my mind and I expressed it moments ago. Could you see a situation, or have you seen a situation, where there are 2 or 3 cases against an individual, just find one conviction, and then that will be the headline before Election Day? I mean, potentially we just saw one with Trump. I mean, that's been the whole argument against how it went. And being here to see what was going on in New York and with that particular judge, your thoughts?
I think what's much more likely is Hunter Biden actually pleads to the tax case. You postpone sentencing until after the election, and then Joe Biden does what I've been arguing he was going to do all along, which is he pardons his son. Parents are not going to let their kids go to prison.
I guess we'll see what happens. Schwab is still down. The Hunter Biden, he is officially guilty. For those that are asking, PayPal's down 3%. I think their conference is starting at 12. It's not starting at 11:50. I think, guys, I don't know, dude. Maybe we listen to a little bit of the conference from PayPal. Do you think it's worth listening to a little bit of it? I just don't think they're going to say anything that interesting. But it starts at 12, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, the Hunter Biden thing is quite interesting. I did not know he has another tax case coming up. So you got Trump who got guilty. He has more cases. You have Hunter Biden now that is guilty on the gun case. And why does this matter for the stock market? I mean, it probably doesn't affect the markets that much outside of the fact that it will implicate how people think about Biden and Trump. And obviously, whoever wins does impact the stock market. But if Biden somehow reduces the sentence for Hunter, I do think, objectively speaking, a lot of people are going to be upset. They're going to feel like it's elitism. They're going to feel like it's, what's that word? Cronyism, nepotism. They're going to feel it's a lot of stuff going on right now. Now, granted, he can't do the same for Trump because Trump is a state crime versus federal crime, but I don't think it would look good if he does that for Hunter. Now, granted, I mean, look, if I was the president and my kid got 5 years in jail, I don't want my kid to be in jail for 5 years. I might, shit, dude. If at the end of the day, I don't care what anyone says. I might commute my kids. So, but I don't know. It's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out. DJT down 3%. DJT is down 2%. Yeah, I don't think Trump's made a statement yet on Truth Social because they're trying to figure out exactly how do they argue about this. But they're gonna have to say something here. What did he say? Okay, so Trump did say this. Okay, so Trump didn't say anything about Biden, but he did say this right now. He said, the fake news Washington Post came up with the ridiculous idea that Donald Trump will call for mandatory military service. This is only a continuation of their 8-year failed attempt to damage me with the voters. The story is completely untrue. In fact, I never even thought of that idea. Only a degenerate former newspaper, which has lost 50% of its readers, would fabricate such a story. He called them the Washington Compost. Oh my God, dude. This guy's hilarious. Yeah, I mean, look, you could say whatever you want about Trump. I don't think he's going to force people to do military service. I don't think that's the route he's going. Washington Compost, huh? Interesting. Okay, Snowflake's up a little bit. Palantir's up. Apple's 204. Apple's still getting some momentum. Robinhood 2267. The only reason Robinhood's down is because of Bitcoin almost falling below 66,000, which is so annoying. Spotify 312. Rest of the market is relatively flat. I mean, S&P is down a little bit today, 0.32%, but it's not really down as much. And so it's not too bad. Brad Gerstner is going to be on CNBC at noon. Yeah, okay, so maybe we listen to Gerstner because I'm really curious what he would have to say about what's going on with software. So I'll load that up. Again, I think the PayPal conference, dude, I don't think it's worth listening to. I think we'll see how the stock reacts. At the end of the day, there's nothing PayPal can say that's like super uber exciting. There's just nothing that interesting. But we'll see if the stock goes up or down. I think Tanner, if you really want to listen to it, Tanner streaming it. But we just need them to say stuff that's interesting and that gets the stock to go up. I don't really care what they say. Just make the stupid stock. Like, it's getting to the point where it's like, dude, just fucking pump the stock. I don't give a shit. Make it go up. I'm done with this. Make it go up. Get me to $70 so I can sell and move on with my life. Bitcoin will recover a bit before the end of the day. Let's see if the CPI numbers leak, dude. If those numbers leak, maybe yeah, Nvidia right here, 118. Nvidia down 2.3%. If the CPI numbers leak, last time it happened at like 2:30, it leaked. And things were good. And we could tell that the market was excited about it. Fidelity, active traders suck on Mag. Is Schwab still down for people? That is crazy, dude. It's been almost 3 hours. Schwab being down for people is insane, dude. That is not the best. Oh, did you guys see Karp's Yahoo interview? Do we want to watch that? Have you guys seen that yet? Yes or no? Because we could watch that. I mean, I haven't fully sat down and like watched it. Schwab is still down, bro. Wild. We can watch Karp for like 5 minutes and then we can switch to Brad at CNBC. You want to do that? Oracle earnings could be pushing up Palantir. That's a good point. If Oracle needs to crush it too. Oracle needs it because after what Salesforce put up. Now, Oracle is more AI infrastructure, data infrastructure than Salesforce. It's not a CRM per se. But I think the market expects 8% year-over-year growth on these guys as well, which would be good. Amid 24 hours. No, I'm not going to stream 24 hours. We're getting back into the swing of things. I missed like 2 weeks, so I'm like, I miss streaming. So it's been, how long have we done? 3 hours? Damn. I didn't even notice that today, dude. We've just been going. Okay, let's listen to a little bit of Carp. I haven't even fully got down and to sit and listen with this. But let's listen to 5 minutes, and then as soon as we'll end it after Brad's appearance on CNBC. We'll see how we can pump Snowflake, and after that, we'll keep going. We'll be done after Brad talks. All right, here's Carp, CNBC, about 5 minutes, and we'll go to Brad.
I'm Josh Lipton, and I am here now with Palantir CEO Alex Karp for this exclusive Yahoo Finance interview here at AIPCon. This is the company's customer conference. Alex, thanks for taking the time to chat.
Very happy to be here.
So today there's going to be more than 250 of your customers, and they're going to be here, Alex, talking about AIP. This is your flagship AI platform. Let's start there, Alex. For many viewers who aren't as familiar, what is AIP? How does it work, and how are businesses leveraging it right now?
I think what everybody watching this is familiar with is you have a massive hype cycle around large language models, and then when you try to use them in your enterprise, you find out that it's more like self-flagellation, and it's expensive with no output. And what we learned in the context of warfighting primarily, but also across the 20 years of building software infrastructure, were how do you manage an emergent natural resource called large language models in a way where you actually get value, meaning you can transform your enterprise, you can change the margins, you can turn non-technical people into technical people. On the battlefield, you can do things that would have otherwise cost billions of dollars for millions of dollars, meaning being very precise in how you allocate troops, being precise in how you target people. There's a fundamental fallacy around large language models. People could conflate actual data of an enterprise, which is structured and can be taken apart and understood, with a large language model, which is much more like an emergent property, something that is can be modeled, used, but you need precision. And all the value in the market is going to go to chips and what we call ontology. We have this ontology, and the ontology will allow you to take a large language model and use it, refine it, and you then impose it on your enterprise in the logic of your enterprise, in the security model of your enterprise. And what does that mean for the 70 people are here presenting, talking about why they're using it, how they're using it. You got to remember, we started selling this product just over a year ago. We started with the claim that we knew a lot about the precursors of large language models, and the general approach of just buying models is going to be essentially self-pleasuring for an enterprise at the cost of the enterprise. And no one believes
what he's saying there is a real thing. And he goes on to say that no one believes him on this. And I think that's where the alpha is for Palantir. No one believes that LLMs are just worthless if you don't have an ontology. And Karp's entire thesis is like, we have the one thing that makes them valuable. And as soon as the market figures that out, like it's game over.
Believed us. And now you see 70 people saying, hey, we're using this for construction. We're using it for hospitals. The people who are not speaking, but we're using it on the battlefield. We're using it to compress margins. We're using it to build enterprises that we're only able to build in Asia, in America. We're making engineers better engineers. We're making people who are not engineers into engineers using our ontology and a large language model. And this works very, very quickly. And it is substantially changing the health and vitality of every business here.
And for
as opposed to the alternative, which is that you buy some large language model, you party with it basically, and the next day you have a hangover. And again, for people just looking at this, what does it mean for Palantir? It means we are sitting on the only thing that actually creates quantifiable transformational value in an enterprise. Yes, it is not understood well because everybody understands the problem incorrectly. Yes, it is going to transform America, and our clients are leading the way. And by the way, it's like to actually show things that are not understood, you have to actually show them. The whole purpose of this conference is I can tell you how an ontology works. It's actually quite simple. You have the logic of the business, including the security logic of the business, and you have something that approximates new knowledge in a new form called a large language model. And it allows you to take the value of the new form, the raw resource of a large language model, largely powered by chips, and put it into a precise organization in the logic of the business. I can tell you that, or I can show you 70 businesses saying my business is stronger, healthier, and much better than any other business in my sector.
And so what is, I mean, bottom line for investors listening, Alex, how would you characterize what is commercial demand like right now for AIP?
The way I would explain it to my most important investors, which are individual investors, there's two parts of the market that are creating value people will pay for: chips and ontology. And you understand the chip side now, and now you're going to understand ontology. And what does that mean for your business? It means you can actually use this raw resource and process it into something that actually works. And if you want to see exactly how, watch the people presenting. You're going to see people in construction using it to build buildings quicker, cheaper, more accurately. You're going to see people in the hospital industry saying, how could I possibly ever distribute my patients ethically, fairly, and commercially relevantly? How could I distribute resources across? How can I manage my company as not abstract units, but as a portfolio? These things are happening within days.
What I'm interested in, Alex, is because you can talk, a lot of CEOs will say, and they'll say on Yahoo Finance, they're interested in AI, but actually they're not willing to pull the trigger yet because they have these questions about privacy, security, vendors. But you're saying we're crushing it, we're closing the IP
What I would
business.
tell any of them is,
how are you doing it?
Well, there's a technical answer, which I gave you the precursor of. But again, do you want to know how we're doing it, or do you want to enjoy it being done?
Both, really.
Great. Well, first you want to see it works. Yeah. Like the central issue, I think, we have hundreds and hundreds of CEOs. And by the way, the thing about the 70 people here presenting is, they're presenting to other people. I'm not paying them to present. The reason they're presenting is they're like, wow, I didn't really believe this could work, and now it's working really well. So the most important thing, by the way, for a normal user, someone who's going to pay, is, does it work? Then the second question is, how does it work? Does it scale? What is the commercial model? You really have to establish it works. I would stand by the thing that in this case is, people think of large language models as the value in of itself. What they're going to find is the large language model is much more like a chemistry experiment, the outgrowth of which is something that is useful when refined. And the refinement of that for your enterprise happens in what we call our ontology, which is where we impose the logic of your business on the large language model in the security and intellectual logic of your business. And this is transformative. And what it means for investors and others is, there is value in this market. You can identify where the value is very easily. Are people paying for it? Will they pay for it? And there's a Pareto optimality to a lot of this stuff. And that Pareto optimality happens when people say, oh, I am actually getting value. And that's why people are here.
Let me ask you, I want to broaden the conversation because you kind of suggest.
So that was the core thing from this that I got. And it's kind of really interesting. For those that don't know what Pareto optimality is, because I looked this up a while ago as well, but it has to do with production and efficiency, right? So Pareto optimality is the state at which resources in a given system are optimized in a way that one dimension cannot improve without a second one worsening. And right there, he's basically saying, so for everyone who's concerned about the monetization of AIP, he's like, well, if the only way it's going to work is if we monetize it. And I think the argument that AIP is not monetized yet to its full potential, that's 100% correct. But if the ontology is the epicenter by which the value of the LLM is unlocked, which I think he does a really good job in those 8 minutes explaining, then the monetization is going to happen. The question is when. None of us really know when it's going to happen. But if it happens in the next 12 months, then I think the market's going to figure out what's happening with Palantir. All right. So Brad Gerstner's not there yet, but let's listen to Josh Brown right now about what's going on with Apple, and then we'll go from there.
Where the analyst said AI now stands for Apple Intelligence. One of the key things that the Apple skeptics have gotten wrong over the last, 15 years now, is this concept where somebody has to be first, or somebody has to have the first thing out there, or some sort of earliest version is going to somehow win the game. It's never been the case. It's definitely not been the case with any arena that Apple's competed in. The comparison between now and when Apple took the MP3, which was technology that pre-existed iTunes, and made it user-friendly, made it work seamlessly. iTunes working seamlessly with the hardware. That is what Apple has always done. They're never first. They don't even try to be. They look at the technology and they say, how can we play to our strength as the maker of the hardware and beat everyone else who's focused on either hardware or software? And I think that is why you saw this delayed reaction. Look, as Kendrick Lamar said recently, sometimes you got to pop out and show people. Apple is the boogeyman. The number of AI startups they just put out of business yesterday is probably 24, because all of these amazing capabilities that smaller companies are working on individually, Apple has combined them into existing products, and supercharging Siri on top of it is really what's going to put this thing into use for everyone who's not a technology expert, normal people who just want to see their lives improve. I love what they did. It had a higher budget than some Netflix shows, that whole video. And I really feel that they grasped what was necessary and they seized the opportunity. Apple's going to win this.
You referenced the D.A. Davidson commentary today. It certainly is not the only glowing commentary on the back of the event. Citi says it was the best WWDC ever. JP Morgan says, Siri, can you upgrade my iPhone? That is the great hope, of course, that it does lead to a big upgrade cycle. Wells Fargo positive. Goldman goes to 238. Morgan Stanley says it was above their expectations slightly. Bernstein's talking about the upgrade cycle. Brenda Vangello, as I said, is sitting next to me here. You own Apple, and you saw enough that you're thinking of adding to your position.
Yes, I think the big knock from our standpoint on Apple prior to yesterday was really that this is a mature company, and where is the growth going to come from? But I think what we're seeing now is that huge installed base of devices of over 2 billion is becoming a huge competitive advantage because of all of the personal data that Apple has on consumers. And it's unlike any other company. Microsoft doesn't have it on the personal side, neither does Google, neither does Amazon. They all have pieces of the puzzle, but they don't have the whole picture. They don't have all the personal texts, all the personal emails, the personal health information. Apple just has a ton of data. And so I think in order for it really to be successful on the consumer side, all of that data is really needed to bring the whole puzzle together on the consumer side. So I think this does represent a big opportunity in terms of upgrading phone cycles. So I think it is going to be transformative.
Weiss, you bought the stock in May at $190. You haven't exactly been the most glowing, though, about the prospects for this company going forward. Does this change your mind? Because it appears as though it is changing many minds today as to what Apple's place within the arms race in AI is going to be. I read you the commentary, and that was just a smattering of it.
Yeah, I don't know that it changed anybody's minds. You haven't mentioned anybody has upgraded the stock. They've all had buys on it. So they're trying to support their buys. Look, unquestionably, this will drive an upgrade cycle versus their prior phones, including the iPhone 10, the big hullabaloo that turned out to be a complete bust. So we can't forget, though, that at the end of the day, that's what you need to drive the stock, because you've had roughly flat revenues, roughly flat earnings, and the only uptick in those has been through financial engineering, which there's nothing wrong with, by the way. It's just that you're paying a premium for it. So
right. Well, you get D.A. Davidson, by the way, did upgrade the stock. To your comment that nobody upgraded the stock, Davidson did, and they were previously rated neutral on it. I don't want you to be disagreeable just for disagreeable's sake, Weiss. I know you, bud. But, the stock is reacting.
If that's what you think of me, Scott, you don't know me, because everything I say is fact-based. So let me go through
everything he says is definitely not fact-based.
the facts and how I look at it. You don't have to own Apple. I'm not an Apple sycophant, like I'm not a sycophant of any stock. They came in, they did what they had to do, and they paid the price of admission. They lagged it, so they caught up nicely. But others are now going to the next iteration. So I own the stock. I'm going to stay there. It's still expensive. They continue to lead. Josh is wrong. They innovate like crazy in emojis, which is the lowest tech bar you can get to. So yeah, they've got an installed base that's $2 billion. That's worth a premium. They've got an installed base that's worth a premium. I don't know why that's barred, and people aren't going to leave that installed base.
Steve, do you agree with me? The biggest news here and the only thing that really matters. This stock sold at a really high premium to the market, and it seemed unfounded for a while, and they got away with it because of buybacks. I agree with that. But would you agree with me, what the market saw through and kept this stock at that elevated multiple was that Apple likely would be designing this with the intent of generating its first true iPhone upgrade cycle in years. And in fact, that's actually what they did. This is not backwards compatible to any handset older than the 15.
No, I'm not disagreeing.
So,
Josh, that's why I said it'll drive an
this is
upgrade
why
cycle.
the price targets.
You're not changing the dialogue.
So this
Josh,
is
let me finish my
so to
thought.
me.
It will drive an upgrade cycle
One at a
because of
time,
that.
people.
They've advertised big upgrade cycles in the past, and I've mentioned the iPhone 10. Everybody would agree that's a bust. Now you have to buy a new iPhone. Now you may step up to the iPad Pro, which is ridiculously priced at $2,000 because it's got the M4 chip versus the iPad Air that doesn't. So that can't take advantage of the AI capabilities. So yes, it will drive a new upgrade cycle across their devices. If you take a look at the laptops also.
All right. I guess we will see. I mean, the market's reacting to Apple. We're going to end it there, but market likes what Apple's been able to do. 203.99 up 5.64% of the day, 204. Market likes it. Market wants it. And as of now, the upgrades are coming in from the street. And as long as Apple can show the upgrade cycle comes in on their iPhone, they're going to be in a good situation. Why isn't CNBC talking about the Schwab issue? See, the Schwab issues are weird because for some people it's resolved, for some people it's not. Again, I think we'll figure out by the end of the day, hopefully, why Schwab went down. But as of now, it just seems like a technical issue that they're having. And I guess we'll figure out later why that's happening. Okay, word of the day. We'll end it out. Abrogate.
Abrogate.
To put an end to. Okay, that's not a bad one. By neglecting to attend the meetings, he was seen as trying to abrogate his duties. I have not abrogated the stream for 3 hours. The committee tried to abrogate its responsibility by postponing the decision until after the holidays. I missed you guys. I haven't been able to abrogate the stream for 3 hours. We're back on the regular schedule, market open, market close. I'll be back 3:45 p.m. We'll see what happens with Apple and keep going from there. Robinhood metrics after the bell, 4:05. Going to be a big one today. I think if the numbers are good, the market's going to be nice. And regardless of what happens to the stock, the numbers need to be good to make sure Q2 is strong. So we'll see what happens after the bell, and we'll keep going from there. All right, that's it for me. Thank you, everybody. Thank you all for being here. Back again on our daily schedule, and I'll see you guys at 3:45 on the market close, and we'll keep going. When Shop goes back to 77, I may buy. Yeah, Shopify as well is having a good day. So far, market's having a relatively good day, but we'll see by the end of the day how it plays out, even if it's a little bit red. All right, guys. Thank you. See you guys 3:45. Have a good one. Bye-bye.